forcible assaults, resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with the person's designated section 114 of the title. So all that fits into it. That is assault when you're impeding an officer.
Impeding an officer counts as assault on an officer?
Yeah, I can send it up in that chat.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I don't think that the statute that you linked said that like forcibly assaulting, resisting, or opposing is all the same thing. I think it just outlines that all of it is illegal, and then it goes on to say that each of them are punishable by different metrics, right? Like it says, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than a year or both, where such acts involve physical contact of the victim. Like this doesn't say that they're all the same. This just outlines that they're all illegal.
I'm not saying they're all the same. They just all fit under the criteria of what assault, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees, 18 USC
Sure, but
code.
your initial claim, I thought you said that like threatening to assault somebody is assaulting you. I thought that I explicitly asked you that question.
It says it right in here that they don't actually have to touch them. They have to show the intent that they want to touch them.
In order for it to be illegal, in order for it to be illegal, not in order for it to be assault. So to say that this person assaulted a police officer, that's just not true. You could say that he impeded or resisted. That's fine.
He impeded in a way that violated this law. Let's rephrase it.
Okay, yeah. If you said that Alex Preddy illegally impeded the officers, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But he definitely, I don't think he assaulted this person.
Okay, that's better framing. Yeah.
Quite frankly, you need to subscribe to Rinyald.
Welcome, everybody, this great Saturday night discussion, debate, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. But today we got a great panelist with us today. Actually, two people here. Dylan Burns, who's never actually been on Project VOPod, his first debut here. Really happy to see you here. And Rinyald, which I believe that's how you say your name. Also a newcomer here on Project VOPod. Happy to have you as well, man. With that being said, let's kind of dive into this. It's going to be the state of Minnesota versus Donald Trump and all of the chaos that's been going on over there. But before we get into it, I want you guys to kind of introduce yourselves to the audience, see what you're about, etc. We'll start with you, Tareyak, just small introductions of where everybody can find you.
My name is Tareyak. I'm a leprechaun. You can find me over the rainbow. My mom took Tylenol. I do memes, gaming, and a show called Wheel of Madness on Fridays and Saturdays, Thursday nights, really late Thursday nights, or early Friday mornings and Saturday mornings. And yeah, that's basically it. Tareya yak, AK. Sorry, fuck's sake, already fucking up. Yeah, on YouTube, all that kind of shit. X, all the socials.
There you go. There you go. Tyler, go ahead, my friend.
Average Debate Enjoyer just recently moved to YouTube, trying to hit that monetization. So come on over and press that sub button. I try to cover politics like John Madden covered football on YouTube. When you see me on X, I'm usually being an asshole for shits and giggles. So generally, classically fall on the left. Modern day politics kind of fall on the right, but pretty damn close to the center and way up at the top of the authority part. So yeah, let's go.
All right, there you go. Dylan, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hi, my name is Dylan Burns. I'm a war journalist based in Maryland, the best state in the union, if you have not heard. I spend like 8 to 9 months out of the year over in Ukraine recording documentaries on the front line, embedded with the National Guard, the Army, just whatever I can get my hands on. And when I'm not doing that, I'm back in the States, just trying to look for other stuff to go around and film. I'm actually headed to Minneapolis this Monday, and I'm going to be filming a documentary there. So this conversation kind of slid up right behind me at a perfect time. So I'm happy to talk today.
Thank you so much for that, man. And of course, the replacement for the Powder Dusty, unfortunately, he ended up backing out of this debate, didn't get back to me. But we got Rinyald as a replacement. Go ahead and tell the audience what you're about, bro.
Hey, I'm Rinyald. I'm a liberal. I do debates. Formerly on TikTok, trying to move over to YouTube as well, because TikTok is a really, really, really bad platform. But yeah, I'm a replacement. Hopefully I don't shit the bed too hard for not being prepared for this.
No, it's all good. You have a bit of an excuse since you kind of came in here as an emergency debater, man. I really appreciate that, dude. Really appreciate that. With that being said, let's do the openers and see what y'all's arguments is. We'll start with the right-wing side, Tareyak and Tyler, whoever wants to go first on this.
Hey, do you want to go first, Tyler? I guess, Jake, I have a couple of links there. I think because we want to keep it like short or whatever, we're going to skip straight to part 2. But the main thing here is, it's like, you might be wondering, why the fuck is a leprechaun commentating on American politics because I can give the outside perspective. Think about Loki. Loki was the outsider to the Odinsons. You know what I mean? He was a Laufeyson. You know what I mean? That outside perspective is needed. So when you look at this shit going down in Minnesota, there's a disagreement and like this whole thing of like urge to protest, right? So a disagreement, we need to look at both sides, okay? So it's like, who's drifted off the message and why is the key question. So if our opponents can genuinely answer that question, fair play to them. But Jake, if you can pull up part 2, that link, please. So
One
we can just
second.
review it real quick.
Yeah, hold on really quick.
Because you guys don't need to trust, because you're both left wing. You don't need to trust my words. We can trust the words of Obama. Okay? So President Obama, like I said, Jake, if you want to make that big screen, like I said, we got to respect. That's the president, Jake. We got
All right.
Let's hear him loud and proud.
The immigrants' rights community, who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. There are those
So
in the
that's the
immigrants'
first
rights.
step, right?
Yep.
So like that's the first thing. So you guys even got to compete with your own president. You know what I mean? These aren't even my words. So I don't want to hear no like thing in terms of like represent myself, all this kind of shit, right? That's numero uno. And before my opponents even tried to play any sympathy cards and all this kind of shit and like all like think about Charlie, all this kind of shit, here's a demonstration exactly of what I predict is going to happen. Jake, can you please play the third clip and make it full screen?
Yeah, I got you right here, bro. Hold on. I've seen this one. It's hilarious.
Caring for people was at the core of who he was. He was incapable of causing harm. Alex carried patience, compassion, and calm as a steady light within him. Even at the very end, that light was there. I recognized his familiar stillness and signature calm composure. Caring for people was at the
All right, there
So,
you guys have it there.
This shit where this dude was an angel, he was incapable of harm. Why the fuck is he going and spitting on federal officers and kicking their fucking taillight out to begin with, to the point where he's going against what Obama was saying just before Trump was in office? So, like, in terms of like the ridiculous that we have here, I'd like to again frame it like I said because we just have enough time. Jake, would you please play the first clip as well? Because you just have enough time.
Yeah, we got enough time here. All right, let's play this one.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
All right, there you guys
So-
have it there.
We're not going to do this gaslighting of we're far right, you just hate the immigrants, etc., etc. These are clearly the radicals that have shifted fucking 3 octaves to the next level of extremism. They are the extremists, not the people that want to preserve their culture.
All right. With that being said, thank you so much for that opening statement, Tareyak. Tyler, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, so I take most of my analysis from the pink coat lady's video that starts about a minute and a half before the conflict between ICE and the three people in the road kicks off. There's still a question in my mind about the first shot, and I think the investigation being done by the FBI is going to clear that up for us, where it came from and why it was done. But other than that, I think that all the actions taken by ICE against Priddy were justified. I'm a Clinton Democrat that voted for Obama, the deporter-in-chief, and Hillary myself. So in that video, we see two women approach an officer who is getting into his vehicle, and they stand on the left side of the vehicle, the only egress for that vehicle to pull out. That is blocking the traffic while they're also standing in the middle of the roadway. These people blocking the roadway, what that does, as the courts have said in multiple different rulings, when you stand in the roadway, you are creating a more dangerous, hazardous situation for officers. Now, that doesn't automatically give ICE the authority to police that. They have to be either in a dangerous or put into a dangerous situation, or their official duties have to be impeded. So what we see is Mr. Pushy, the officer, goes and tells woman one to get out of the road, a lawful command, get out of the road. He goes over to woman two and Priddy. He tells them to get out of the road. They refuse. He starts pushing them. He pushes Priddy out of the road. He goes to push the woman out of the road. Woman one comes back around the car from the road and approaches him from behind. He grabs her, puts her in front of him, pushes her out of the road. That's when Priddy steps in and assaults the officer. He doesn't even have to touch him, but he does. You can see from a different angle, the officer moves backwards. Multiple courts have cleared officers using this lowest level of force, which is open-handed force. They have let these officers retain their qualified immunity, and I have multiple examples of different case rulings that do that. This is based off the totality of circumstances, and this comes from Graham v. Connor, which I'm going to get to as well in the body of this debate. The chaos of the situation is also another circumstance. The loud whistles, the screaming, and all the chaos going on around them affected their communication. But why are these people, why are CBP and BPA even there in the first place assisting ICE? That's because local police and local state law enforcement were nowhere to be found. They were not arresting people that were doing crimes. They were being called off. We saw the National Guard called in to hand out donuts and coffee to the protesters, which again, 95% of the protesters were there being peaceful. This is a small handful of people being violent. They're organized on a signal chat that was exposed, telling people to obstruct traffic. All 13 states that are currently ignoring federal laws to deport illegal aliens in the country are culpable here. They are somewhat to blame in a moral act. Now, legally, they're not compelled to, and this comes from a Supreme Court ruling actually written by Scalia about gun rights. So it's a right-wing ruling that they're using to keep up sanctuary cities. But at the end of the day, though they are not compelled legally to enforce these laws, there is a moral wrong in allowing federal crimes to go on in your state and working against federal officers that have the jurisdiction to go in and remove these people. So who is at fault here? Priddy, Good, and Sosa Celeste, the three shootings that took place in ICE. At the end of the day, they're responsible for their actions. So at the top of that hierarchy, they lie. Next, I would say the ICE officers who are acting a bit too aggressively. Nobody wants this guy shot. We call it lawful but awful. Probably justified. Again, we're pending investigation on that first shoot. But generally, it is the fault of first, the people that did it, second, the officers, and next, the local government that's refusing to police crimes going on. We see people breaking in and blocking vehicles. We see people going after ICE in their hotel and restaurants when they're off duty. And we see state police being called and not showing up to the scene. I was against the January 6th insurrection. My first debate online was against Pisco, trying to clarify that him using hyperbole actually hurts his argument against the insurrection that happened on January 6th. It's a bad thing. I'm using that term colloquially because nobody was actually charged with the Insurrection Act. So anyone that's going to get technical on me there, Trump was called evil for waiting 2 hours, where Tim Walz waited 2 months of different instances, about 2 weeks after the first shooting, to come in with any state police to arrest these people. This is significantly more time. At the end of the day, each of the oh shit, I lost my spot. Each of these were justified under SCOTUS rulings. We know that ICE officers and people in federal law enforcement can bypass posse comitatus under 2 conditions. One, from this ruling, it was Noam versus Velasquez-Pomo in September 25, is if you impede their duties. The other is if you put them in a dangerous situation by creating or exacerbating danger. Blocking the road fits both of those criteria. I'm going to go into a bunch of different cases, Turner v. Driver, Graham v. Connor, and several other things, Heibel v. 6th Judicial Court of Nevada, and show you that these rulings have held up. I also have Minnesota law, federal law. I'm going to show you that is not being enforced at the Minnesota level, and the federal law that shows that he assaulted an officer. This is all almost non-disputable unless you think he has a valid self-defense claim, which we can go into that as well because I have those precedents if we want to go down that route too.
Okay, thank you so much for that opening statement, my friend. Very, very good one right there. Liked it. Dylan Burns, we'll get to you, my friend. Your time starts now, man.
Fantastic. So I don't know if we should start with the shooting. I would have brought links and videos maybe if I knew we could throw up videos up on the screen. But I think I'll start with the fact that ICE is there in the first place. When ICE goes to a community, they are law enforcement from the federal authorities. They are coming from a place where they don't know the locals. They don't know the people on the street because they come from West Virginia. They come from Florida. They come from DC. They come from wherever they're based. And if they're going into a community and they're going around masked up and not identifying themselves, you're already going to create a hostile environment. If you don't know the person who is enforcing the laws and who has the authority to enforce laws upon you, your neighbors, and make people in your community from the perspective of those in the city disappear, that's going to be an aggravative factor. Another thing that's going to be an aggravative factor is going to be ICE, the entire organization, trying to use administrative warrants and playing them off as if they have the power of a judicial warrant. An administrative warrant does not have the power of a judicial warrant. And the way that the administration is talking right now goes against what ICE's handbook from last year said, which is that, Article 4 protects from the most evil violation of our property rights and the going into people's home, and that at the end of the day, there are only 3 guidelines by which they can enter a home, and none of them said administrative warrant. Judicial warrant, extenuating circumstances like somebody shooting out of the home at you, something along those lines, but nothing about an administrative warrant. And so when you start treading upon the Fourth Amendment, when you start saying, I have to be masked up in your community to protect myself, there's going to create an environment. The only environment that could be spawned from that is going to be one that is hostile. And so they come to a community that didn't want them there to enforce immigration law. Okay, they're going to enforce immigration law. What type of immigration law? Well, we're going to go after the murderers. We're going to go to the rapists. We're going to go after the pedophiles. We're going to go after the worst of the worst. But then CBP does not go after the worst of the worst. They go after basically everybody. If you're a U.S. citizen walking on the street, the way CBP was saying, if you're anywhere in the vicinity of a raid, if you're anywhere in the vicinity of an operation, those officers have the right to card you. They have the right to ask for your identification. They have the right to stop you on the street, even if you are not suspected of any crime. My problems with this ICE buildup, we can talk about the specific shooting and whether it's murder, negligent homicide, whether it's a man who's trigger happy but will likely get away with it before a court of law. We never had to get to this point in the first place. We could talk about local authorities rejecting federal authority, but any high road that Republicans could have claimed from federal authority is disregarded when that federal authority acts in a way that they don't have the powers to act. When they say, we have the power to ignore the magistrate. When they say we don't have to identify ourselves. When they say we can shoot people in the street and then disregard local authorities in their investigations. We don't need to turn over physical evidence. We don't need to do that. You just need to accept that when the bullets hit your body, you turn into a domestic terrorist. And it's not going to be helped that every single time one of these shootings happen, or any type of really any tragedy that blame could fall with the administration and their policies, they immediately get into the blame game. I saw it first when I was in the DC area, and a bunch of our locals got killed after the Ronald Reagan National Airport disaster and a helicopter colliding with the plane. What's the first thing the president come out and says? It's woke. It's woke that did it. It has to do with affirmative action hires before any investigation was done, before any type of look into, what actually caused this disaster had occurred. They immediately come out and start pointing fingers all around the room. And they did the same thing when it came to Renee Good. And then they did the same thing when it came to Alex Peretti. That Alex Peretti was going to go there and he was an assassin. He was going to do a massacre. And then Trump started talking like a pistol was this type of with this very powerful pistol with the extra magazines. My God, he was talking the way that I expect any Democrat stereotypically to talk about guns from a Republican perspective. And so I think right now the Republican Party wants to move away from this very fast. The reason Homan was moved in there as essentially not a white flag, but almost like a truce message. Like, look, this is not doing well for us. The polling is showing that for the first time in American history, a plurality of Americans wants to see ICE abolished. 5-10 years ago, somebody says ICE is abolished. What does that mean? That means you don't want immigration enforcement. That means you don't want borders. That means you don't want any type of America to really enforce its immigration laws at all. And that is a type of weakness the American people did not want. But now, because of the actions of the Trump administration, a plurality of the American people for the first time want to see ICE go out the window. They're able to make a distinction between the organization and the existence of immigration enforcement, which existed before ICE's creation. And so right now, we can keep having these panels on this shooting, and we can talk about, whether ICE is behaving in a way that is within the laws and order that we're all supposed to abide by. But at the end of the day, the longer we talk about it, the more of a losing issue it's going to be for the Republican Party, because those videos just don't look good, no matter how much legalese you throw at it.
Okay. Thank you so much for that opening statement, Dylan. Very, very well put there. The last opening statement right here, Rinyald. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right?
All good, all good.
Okay, all right. I don't want to be rude here. I'm not doing it on purpose. Rinyald, go ahead, my friend. You have 5 minutes on the clock.
So I doubt I'm going to use the whole 5 minutes. My main argument is just that these mass deportation efforts, and by extension, the ICE raids, are kind of a problem or a solution in search of a problem. I've never seen it seems like the definition of what even is an illegal immigrant at this point is so watered down to the point that it basically means nothing, to the point where people with protected status are counted as illegal immigrants, or somebody who was encountered at the border and turned away is somehow still considered as somebody who entered the country. It's where this giant 10 million number is. And these kind of lies justify these ICE raids. And I don't see with these ICE raids, you're basically along with it, because if you're looking to do this very quickly over the span of 4 years, you're looking to violate a lot of people's rights, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get this many people out of the country as quickly as possible. You're going to be inflaming the people, because generally Americans just don't like super militarized policing. We see that all of the time. And it's just it costs so much money, right? So I think these are three really big problems, especially the abuses of rights, which I think Dylan Burns pointed out a decent amount. With all of that considered, I just don't see what the point of these ICE raids are. And when we see cases like Renee Good and we see cases like Alex Preddy, I don't see why we would expect anything different, because, as I said, when you super militarize a police force, people get really unrestful. And I'm not justifying people rioting, but I am saying that I don't know what we would expect to happen other than these kinds of shootings. I just don't see when we take into account all of the bad things that we're getting from the ICE raids, why do them when we're not really even getting anything in return? Insofar as the particulars of the shooting, I've seen nothing to justify the shooting of Alex Preddy. It seems like that's the general consensus of the American people. Same case for Renee Good. I just don't understand why these ICE raids are happening and why we're willing to compromise our Fourth Amendment rights, our Fifth Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, all of these different rights, in order to do what? That's basically all.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that opening statement for the left-wing positions on that. With that being said, gentlemen, the floor will be open. Go ahead.
Yeah, so real quick, because again, shout out to Andrew in chat and all stuff, what is Tareyak doing, all that stuff, is because Tyler's bringing the facts, he's bringing the legal precedent, he's bringing all this kind of shit, and I'm basically preventing him from doing this whole moral argument or trying to do this whole Trump derangement syndrome. This is not just Trump's policy. This was the Democrats' policies before Trump.
Okay.
Do not listen to the videos. One sec. Do not listen to the videos where you're talking like your own president, like a Democrat president, was saying we weren't like the fact that there's any resistance to saying we need to deport these these illegals that immigrants that come into the country and are committing crime. We need to deport them. There is resistance to that. What you guys are doing are trying to look at isolated events and just look at the individual event and say this is happened in an abstract. This is why I showed you the Tom Petty video. Why is he kicking out a taillight of a federal officer's car? And you're trying to act as though, it's just randomly ICE is just gunning down puppies in South Park. That's not what's happening in reality. What you're seeing, what you're ignoring is this is the ICE's problem. You're putting all the problem on ICE and saying we can't see a problem, but this whole anti-ICE, the violence that they're causing, you're saying, well, hey, that's just people will be people. You're trying to hold one side to an impossible moral standard, while then ignoring all the violence that ICE is trying to prevent.
My standard is the same standard that has existed since the Constitution was written. The Fourth Amendment does say And this was put in place to stop British soldiers from, stepping in our houses and, any future American soldiers from abusing the sanctity of the home, that you're not allowed to go into that home unless you have a magistrate's warrant, not an immigration judge, not an administrative warrant, not, the hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere. You need a magistrate's warrant. Obama didn't do that. He didn't say you didn't need a magistrate's warrant. Hillary never advocated for that on the campaign trail. Bush never did that. Reagan never did that. In fact, that was not the policy of a previous presidency. That's the policy of Donald Trump's presidency. Another thing that wasn't the policy of previous
It's the same worldview.
presidents
It's the
is that
same worldview.
ICE officers all have to cover up. They all have to cover their identities. Their identities are secret. Also, another thing that was not done by previous administrations, we're not going to share this information with local investigators for these types of high-profile shootings.
Real quick.
There are
real
major
quick.
differences.
Just real quick. Answer this question. Just answer this question.
Or Obama.
What happens if the state is not complying with Obama? What happens?
If a state does not comply with Obama, there's some sort of usually federal versus states' rights showdown that is done out in the courts.
And then again, like if they're still not complying, courts agree.
It depends on what the state, because if the state says, you know what, they can bake whatever cake they want, if that's what the judge says, then okay, it looks like states' rights says they can bake whatever cake they want. Like,
but the state commissioner is actively the state commissioner, the governor, the leader of the state is actively going against the federal. What happens then?
What happens is that head of the state probably just sues the federal government to enjoin an action, right? And then if it rules against them in the courts, then they probably just don't do it.
At no point do you send in force.
You send in force if the states aren't complying with the judicial orders, baby.
Yeah,
right now,
so like this whole aspect of, like, I don't know why ICE is here. Like this whole opening bollocks that we had to listen to. Just like, I don't know why ICE is here. It's because they're not complying.
Okay.
We're deporting these motherfuckers, and you're trying to use any excuse possible.
Hold on, Tareyak. Dylan, go ahead and respond to that.
If Tim Walz took the National Guard and he said, you need to stop these evil Nazi ICE agents from Anne Franking all of the people in the Minneapolis area in a way that only he can say, and then he does that, then the federal authorities can come in and they can stop them. This is what happened when, Brown v. Board of Education, when they tried to do integration, they tried to send in, the state government tried to send in forces to stop federal laws from being applied. Federal authority took control and it was over. If that's what he was doing, then they could stop him. That's not what he's doing. He's just saying, ICE, have fun playing, Tom and Jerry with the local undocumented community when everyone hates you. That's
when you're signing for ICE, like that's all they say is
Let
like, have fun, guys.
Let me jump in here. So
yeah, go ahead.
When police officers or anybody enters a home, it's not just warrant based. We have probable cause. This is backed up by tons and tons of case law. When you are in a state like Minnesota or one of the 13 sanctuary states that allow illegal immigrants to get licenses, to become documented illegal immigrants and such, you have to register your address. When you are a legal alien and you register your address to get a license to vote in local elections and things of that nature, you are telling the government your address. You are telling your government, I am a legal alien and here is where I live. That qualifies as probable cause to enter a home.
Certainly.
The government, number one, there have been cases where they have entered the backyards and the properties of people where there is no undocumented people registered at that home. That has happened on multiple occasions. So even if we were to apply the standard that you're putting down, ICE doesn't even always apply by that standard. We just had another video came out, something happening in an auto shop. We just had another video come out yesterday where somebody tried to go in somebody's backyard and they said, get the fuck off my property, my fourth rights, literally citing his Fourth Amendment rights, because some Americans are educated about that. But there are certain circumstances where they can't do that. But the instance where they tried to do that, the high-profile instance with the man in the shorts, where they took the man out, it wasn't the correct man, dropped him off in his shorts in the icy cold. These are the profile instances where I think the government might actually benefit from letting the judges do the deciding work, because so far they've been pretty bad at it. When they either try to do these warrants themselves or they just try to go out themselves, if they let the judicial system be the check and balance, the Trump administration would have a lot less controversy. During the first term, ICE had a positive approval rating. During the first term, DHS had a 59% approval rating. Right now, they're both in the tank because they're trying to throw off the checks and balances that kept them on the tracks the first term.
I would add as well that, like, the argument that Tyler is making that they get probable cause by knowing an illegal immigrant signs up for a particular address isn't even the argument that they make in the memo, because obviously that would be permissible, but that's not the only cases in which they're filling out these I-205s. The thing that they say establishes probable cause is a final order of removal. And then that footnote, they say that the final order of removal isn't even necessary. So like here, they're claiming that just having an order of removal and seeing that an illegal immigrant or a suspected illegal immigrant is somewhere gives them enough probable cause to bring an I-205 to their superior officer for them to sign as a judicial warrant. But that's not how the warrant system works, right? You need an impartial magistrate.
Yeah, well, that would be how it's working in the immigration courts. Immigration courts are an Article 2 set of courts, so they work differently than going to an Article 3 judge, and that's what they're using as the problem.
No, they're not even going to immigration judges. They're going to their superior officers. The officers are the ones that sign I-205s because that's what gives you the permission to arrest somebody. But in no world does it give you the right to enter a private area.
I hear your 3 points. Let me get to Dylan's first, and then I'll come back to yours as well. So, Dylan, you were talking about the polling. So, defund the police at one point was also something that polls cited to be something that the majority of people approved of. But when it came election time, it turns out defunding federal officers and state police.
Can you prove that to me?
Yeah, I can show you that. I can show you.
There were times where things like, accountability for the police or whatever, any amount of slogans you want to throw out there. Defund the police was never popular because it was always seen as pro-crime. It was always seen by pro-crime, by working class people, and it was never able to get communicated properly by leftists on social
media. I'll get to that poll,
yeah.
But going into the specific poll you're citing about ICE being unpopular and the majority want to abolish, when you go into the samples of that poll, it's about 70% women. And I'm not saying women are prescribed to think any certain way, but if you look at the
they are.
Both sides.
Let's say that the women ruin my. Let's say the women ruin my ICE polling data, and let's just go off the DHS polling, which has seen a 20+ point drop since the first administration, the second administration, where Americans, for the first time, many of them actually learned what the DHS was in the first place. And for ICE, whether or not it's a plurality or it's tied, in the first term of Trump, a majority of Americans wanted ICE to be there. Abolish ICE was seen as a fringe, radical position. Trump has thrusted it into a position that is relatively mainstream through his behavior and the behavior of ICE.
Sure, I agree with you that Trump might have been going overboard, and I even said that in my introduction that ICE is going a little tick gung-ho. CBP and BPA are not trained to deal with stuff like this. The reason that they're being brought in is because the state and locals that are actually supposed to be doing this are not. So they needed backup. They brought in other people. If you actually look at the breakdown, only 2.2% of ICE's activity is going on in Minnesota, meaning 97.8% is going on outside of it. There's been about 500,000 people deported by ICE since Trump took office, and about 2.2 million have self-deported. So out of the 2.7 million people deported, we're talking about 0.01% of incidents that have taken place. So we're talking.
That's interesting. Let's focus on
that. Boy is spitting fire.
That's interesting because Minneapolis's population is very low when it comes to undocumented people. We're talking about, I think, roughly 2% of the population of Minneapolis, right? So that means 98% of the people are people who are documented individuals, right? They're not the individuals. And of those undocumented people, how many of them are the blood murdering, blood guzzling criminals that Trump portrayed on the campaign trail that he was going to go after? An even smaller percentage.
The second part I was going to get to is
so much force has been focused in Minneapolis, just like so much force has been focused in Washington, D.C., and just like he tried to threaten rejudication funding, rebuilding funding for the Maryland Bridge. I don't know if you knew about the key bridge collapse, but when that collapse happened and the governor of our state said, hey, you know what? We need to rebuild. They go forward with that action. He tries to threaten that funding over them just critiquing these deployments as, hey, this is obviously targeted towards Democrat cities. This is not right. And so my question to you is, do you think a lot of this is happening, not necessarily because just ICE is operating, but there's an overabundance of agents? I mean, we just heard Holman come out like, yes, we do need to actually decrease the amount of agents. We're going to decrease the amount of agents, that there's a certain amount of targeting of Democrat-run cities that's going on here.
Yeah. So I'll first address what you, I was going to get this before too, what the Trump administration said in both, what the Trump campaign said before they actually took office, and the administration said, is they're not just targeting the worst of the worst. Those were some people, those are the ones they focused on for the PR narrative, but they also said everybody with a valid deportation order, which is about 2.2 million of the people that were here illegally. So they are focusing. On top of that, they said collateral damage. When we go for those people that we are focused, when we find any other people that are here illegally on the way, we're going to get them as well, even if they don't fit the top priority list. So just because they're the top priority does not mean they're also not acceptable to be arrested. They're just not the main target. So they are going after exactly.
I mean, does it really speak to somebody being
one sec. Let me just echo this. Like, for example, Dylan, if you owned a nightclub and someone like got round like the $10 fee to entry and was in the club, would you kick them out of the club? Would you get the bouncers to kick them out of the club?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, brother.
Now, let's say you
A
have to
nation
spend
is not a
$1,000 in order to
okay?
do
Yeah,
it.
so
A nation
ICE
is
is
not a
ICE.
nightclub.
One sec.
Wait,
We're looking for
no,
justification.
you don't
We're
get to ask
looking
an
for
answer and then you get to go on
justification,
your
sir.
fucking-
And
Wait,
when you
hold
look
on.
at the big
Hold on.
picture, when you look at the big picture, the main principle that you just admitted to there, Dylan. The main
Let him
principle
finish,
you
Dylan.
made there was they're not here like the right way. They need to go out and they need to go and wait in line, which is what Hillary Clinton was saying, which is what Barack Obama was saying.
Okay,
And
Hillary
that's
and
what
Obama
that's
can do whatever
one
they
want.
sec,
Hold on.
Dylan. That
on,
is the
Dylan.
justification of why ICE is there. And you were trying to ask that this is not justified whatsoever.
Okay, Dylan, go ahead and respond to that.
This isn't a nightclub. Okay, when you talk about removing 2% of a city's population, that has a demonstrable effect on the local economy.
What is an
That has a
analogy?
demonstrable
Hold on,
effect on
Tareyak.
people's families. That's not, hey, I'm not getting drunk. If me removing somebody from their nightclub meant that other people in the nightclub who used to have to rely on their income, whether they were spending at their store, spending at the barbershop, going to the doctors, they were an integral part of the nightclub community for 25 years. They were like all these other factors that isn't involved in some drunk college kid trying to get around a $10 fee or around his ID because he's 19 and not 21 in the United States. These are not equivocal.
Well, I don't know, Dylan. It actually
It's
might
a
be kind
simple
of a
analogy in
good.
terms
It
of
actually
principle.
might be kind of a good analogy, right? Because let's say that somebody gets past your bouncer and doesn't pay the $3 fee to come into the nightclub, right? But that person who bypassed the $3 fee is giving like $1,000 buying drinks. You need to pay $1,000 to the bouncer in order to get him out. You might kill him in the process. Would you do that in order to get the guy out who bypassed the $3 fee?
Yeah, so you're telling me that if a guy comes in and spends a lot of money, he can start selling cocaine in my club?
No, that's a different question. We're just talking about bypassing
Yeah,
the entry fee, right?
you added in the
Well, number
incentive
one,
of
if it's a
financial
full
gain.
club,
It's like
absolute-
if you're willing to try and go around my security and all that shit, I don't trust you. You're not welcome. Get the fuck out. This
So
is
you
my
would,
property.
so you would,
This
you would
is America.
spend the, you
Hold
would,
on. Hold on.
not being a
Real quick.
deficit of
This is actually
$1,000.
this is actually a pretty good counter hypothetical here. Tareyak, let's say you own a club, a nightclub, and somebody got past the $3 fee to get in, but he spent maybe $1,000 at your bar before you realize he didn't pay the $3 fee. Would you kick him out?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go up to him and we're going to have a discussion. You know what I mean? I'm saying you're going to pay the $3
Are you gonna
fee.
kick him out?
Maybe $5. We put an extra bit of a fine on all this kind of shit and say, listen, you're spending money, but if there's any more funny business out of you, you're out the fucking door.
Wait,
No
Tareyak,
questions
but
asked.
that's not what's
You know what I
happening,
mean?
right? We're not
But
coming
that's
up to
one
people
sec,
who.
one sec.
But that's not
That's
what's
one
happening.
aspect.
You're breaking
That
the
is one
analogy.
aspect. That is one aspect. When you look at the individual, like I said, if they're selling cocaine, if they're like doing crazy shit in my club, they're getting the fuck out of there. What are you talking about?
Right, but let's actually go with the analogy, right? So they're paying $1,000. Let's say that you go up to them and you say,
No,
"Hey,
the
you're either going
analogy
to pay
was someone who just
you're either
breached your
going to pay the
security.
$5."
Should you
I
kick them
agree.
out? And Dylan said yes.
So
That
no,
was the
you
analogy.
go up to them and you say, "Hey, you're going to pay the $5 to go
This
out."
is
So
your
do you
analogy.
agree? So wait, in that case, do you agree that ICE should be going up to these illegal immigrants and giving them a pathway to citizenship instead of deporting them?
No, they're offering to pay them money to leave and self-deport. They're giving them up to $2.6 thousand.
Well, you're not. That's again as disanalogous, right? You're talking about having a conversation with him, saying, "Pay the $5 or I'm going to kick you out." Right? You're not paying him $5 to
Like your
leave.
character. We don't like your character. And when you look
It was
at,
actually
for
it was
example,
secretly
when
a
you look
really
at-
good analogy.
guys,
but we
hold
can't
on,
stick
hold
to
on.
Look
it.
at, for example, the
Hold on.
Somali fraud that's happening in Minnesota.
Okay.
Like small populations can do massive damage. When you look
We
at the
understand
small
that-
population, one sec, when you look at the small population of the Pakistani Muslims in Britain who raped God knows how many women because of the amount of grape, God knows how many little girls because of the cover-ups and the shit like that. And because of motherfuckers like you said, well, the data doesn't show it. Yeah, because it's not reported or whatever.
What the data
In
shows
terms
is
of this
that
whole thing,
73% of people in ICE detention have no criminal record. That's what it shows.
And then also on CNN, they edited to make him look more handsome. It's weird shit going on. When I show you the counter image, like this is what the dude is. This whole thing of this guy was an angel. He was incapable of harm, and he's kicking out a fucking federal agent's light bulb. Like you're trying to act as though this is not like crazy people who were literally going after federal agents who were storming churches. Storming churches because why did they storm that church? Why? Why?
I appreciate
they
walking
stormed
off
that
of
church
the analogy.
because the leader
I do.
was linked to ICE. So again, who was the aggressor?
Get another point.
I appreciate walking
Who
off
is
the
the
analogy.
aggressor?
Wait, real quick, can I just ask? Do you
Rinyald,
acknowledge
go ahead.
Who was
Hold
the
on,
aggressor?
Tareyak. Rinyald, go ahead and respond to that.
You do acknowledge that like roughly 70% of the people in ICE detention have no criminal history?
I'll acknowledge that. Yeah, absolutely. Criminal record.
So it's not just like going after criminals like that? That's probably not an accurate framing?
Just because they're not being charged doesn't mean they're not committing crimes. Most of these people are here illegally. If you're here illegally and working, you're working illegally.
But they're not trafficking fentanyl like Tareyak was saying, right?
The system
70% of them are non-violent. That means 30%, 1 in 3 basically are violent criminals.
What he's saying
You're
is
saying,
when you allow
oh
the
guys,
system,
you're going over the top. It's like this is actually a good ratio when you talk about like actually going in and being strategic about and all this kind of shit, and you're ignoring all that kind of shit and pointing to the 0.01% case and saying,
well, this is an ICE
travesty.
detention,
But
right?
because when
in
we
this case,
all
it'd be
saw how you
0.1%.
motherfuckers acted when Charlie Kirk happened. So like this, I
Dylan
don't
was
care
very
what
good on
makes
Charlie
you
Kirk.
cheer
So-
How do we
because
get
I've
to Charlie
seen what
Kirk?
makes you cheer.
Dylan was
Okay,
very good
pivot.
on Charlie Kirk.
Okay, hold on. Let's go with Dylan. I think go ahead and respond to Tareyak on that, and then we'll get to Tyler.
Sorry, we got to Charlie Kirk somehow. I genuinely missed the plot how we got to Charlie. But I'll give. Let me give the liberal club example. Okay, the counter.
can't do
the
the
idea of the liberal club
Hold
versus
on,
the
Tyler.
conservative club. The liberal club versus the conservative club was you deny the person because they didn't pay the $10 fee versus you let them in anyway. The real version of the liberal club would be, oh, you're in the club, you spent $500, you didn't pay the $3 fee. We're now going to have you pay the $3 fee and become a U.S. citizen over a probate period. Like that would be the liberal compromise position, not that you either let them in or don't let them in. That's why I didn't think that it was a good comparison. It's not because, I would be like a bad club owner. I probably would. I've seen bar rescue. That shit's hard. But it's probably just because it's not comparable. But the
when
other
the
thing
analogy-
about him being an angel, the guy doesn't need to be an angel. I don't care if he was an angel. But the fact is, from the majority of the work he did, it looked like he did have a contributive, positive impact on his community. And then for many of the factors that I expressed earlier, he was probably very pissed at a protest and ended up kicking that cop car. That's not nice. That's illegal. In fact, they could have detained him at that point. You want to know something interesting? They didn't. They dragged him to the ground.
So
they
is he a
pinned him
criminal?
down. Then they backed up. Then they left. And that also
should he be a
shows
criminal?
that it is possible to detain a man with a gun without executing him.
Dylan, do you believe that if the Minnesota Police Department actually arrested Alex Purdy,
That was an execution, by the way.
if they actually did arrest Alex Purdy 11 days before his death, that he wouldn't have been at that protest before to even die in the first place?
Probably.
So Tim Walz and his,
I really have no clue.
Okay. But I am saying like Tim Walz and his police department didn't actually arrest Alex Purdy for at least damaging government property, right?
And ICE didn't detain them for it either.
Well,
real quick.
I get you there, but
let me just refocus because this is what's happening. Just to explain, because the audience and all this kind of stuff is part of this as well. Like to the audience, what's happening here is they tried to make the legal argument. They're breaking all this kind of stuff. Tyler comes in. He's basically saying it's like no, like you're talking about like 0.01% of the cases. Then they switch up and say, well, the moral argument, Trump is the big meanie, fascist, all this kind of shit. And then I come in and say, it's like, actually, no, these are actually the same words that Obama and Hillary Clinton was saying. So in terms of this rhetoric and words and all this kind of shit, that's all in you guys' head, okay? So in terms of like the whole moral argument or the legal argument, they're beat. So it's just basically cycling back and forth.
Well, no, I mean, there's a huge difference between how the Democrats. There's a huge difference in how the Democrats like Joe Biden or Barack Obama engaged with deportations than Donald Trump, right? Like the aim can be the same. And by the way, I disagree with the aim. All right, I'm gonna be the pick me kind of Democrat, right? But we could say that both of them had the same aim, and that's fine.
Democrat.
But isn't it kind of weird that like 32 people died in ICE detention, which was like a 20-year high? The last time this happened was under a Republican. The kind of people that like the kind of deaths that we were seeing were like 3 people in 2022, 7 people in 2023, 12 people or 10 people in 2017, 5 people in 2012. Like this is a giant departure, not only from the Democrats' previous endeavors, but also Trump's previous endeavors, right? Like the first year of his presidency, we see a 20-year high in the amount of people that die in ICE custody. We never saw that Barack Obama invoked shit like the Alien Enemies Act, right? We never saw Barack Obama saying that, administrative words could be used as impartial magistrate words. Like it literally says in the memo, a part of DHS, that there is no historical precedence for how they are using the administrative warrants, right? So to claim like all of this is the same thing, it's just not true.
So I agree with you because, as you were saying in your introduction, the word illegal immigrant has been watered down. It's been watered down for different reasons on both sides. Under Barack Obama, the term deportation meant people turned down at the border. What you were seeing under Trump is ICE deportations are skyrocketing. Trump has surpassed Obama's 5 years of ICE deportations by about 5 times in 1 year. ICE deportations are massively up. So if we're seeing significantly more ICE deportations, we're going to see significantly more downsides. Like, as you said, the highest number, I think, was 26, you said? of people dying in a single year. So yes, absolutely. we need to
32 this or 32 this past year.
So when you're seeing 500,000 ICE deportations, which again is 5 times more than Barack Obama did in 5 years, his first 5 years in office, it's 5 times more than that in 1 year. Obviously, yes, you're going to see about 5 times as many other instances of bad things as well. 100%.
But we agree that the two parties tackle these deportations in a completely different way. So the ties to Barack Obama is probably a little disingenuous, right? Because it's the pathway to getting to the same aim.
I'm using your argument here.
Sure, and I appreciate that you agree with me, right? But Tareyak, do you agree that the two administrations are going about the deportations in a separate way?
No, I want to go back to the bullshit you were talking about, the deaths in the ICE police. Hold
on, Tareyak.
One sec. What was the total number? I'm not letting him get away with this. What was the total? Tareyak, you even referred to it as an execution. It was like the greatest shit ever.
But he did ask a direct question, Tareyak. He asked a direct question here. Let's kind of answer that question, then you can go to your next.
Sorry,
part.
what was the question again?
We agree that the two administrations are going about the deportations in a different way, so it's okay to be mad when one administration does it and not when the other one does it, right?
Sure, you can justify saying that you're upset or whatever.
Okay, so the appeals to Barack Obama are probably falling on deaf ears.
To my main question, you're talking about how many deaths was it in terms of the bomber? What were you doing with comparison with like deaths in the ICE facilities? What was the total numbers?
Total numbers, it depends on what year you're talking about. I'm saying that last year there was 32 deaths in ICE detention. The last time we got to 32 was 2004. Right, so just in 1 year of the Trump administration, we saw a 20-year high.
So,
the comparable numbers from Obama was like 9, 5, 9, 6, 7. Yeah, I mean, you can look these numbers up.
Yeah, and so like, how many people died in Israel on the October 7th?
Probably a lot. This is a nice debate.
So you have no idea. This is this first world bullshit where it's like, oh my god, we went from 12 deaths in
we're talking about ICE
to at least to 32. Difference of 20 people. But
wait,
like,
Tareyak, what do you think my argument was going to be?
Oppression, when you talk about actual like literally like tyranny and fucking like all
Tareyak,
that.
Why would I bring up deaths as a why would I bring up October 7th? Why would I bring up
far worse? So it's like this whole thing.
Why would I bring up October 7th deaths?
All right.
In an ICE debate. What is the relevance?
People died.
Hold on.
God.
I don't want to sway to October 7th or Israel right now. I think that's kind of a minimal thing that has to do with
I'm trying to put it in perspective. I'm trying to give the audience like perspective.
Like
they're trying to say
right?
that this is an unbelievable. This is a crisis of a thing. But it's like when you look at the actual things within 1 day, how many people died in that one conflict? How many people have died within 1 day of when the Russian-Ukraine thing?
I didn't come prepared to talk about October 7th. I came to say this is an ICE debate, right? Where I'm demonstrating that the ways that they treat immigrants is different between the Trump administration and the Obama administration.
World problems,
okay, all right.
You sound like a wine mom, bro.
All right. I want to wind it back to the footage that happened with Alex Purdy about kicking the tail light and everything like that, etc. I want to sway to the debate here. Was Alex Purdy justified with the shooting, or was it a bad shooting? Let's shoot it out to that. Let's shoot it out to Dylan. Go ahead and make your argument. Was this a bad shooting, good shooting, neutral, etc.? Dylan, we'll shoot it out to you. Tyler, you got the response afterwards.
I got to take 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay, Tareyak, you have the response afterwards. Dylan, go ahead, man. You're muted, bro. You're muted. You're still muted, bro.
I don't know what I'm muted. I don't remember muting myself. I must have been disobeyed or something.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, man. Okay. But yeah, let's get your thoughts on whether it was a good shooting or a bad shooting.
No, it was a terrible shooting. Those cops kind of, I mean, if you want my blunt opinion, I think the cops were trigger happy. I think that they were overly aggressive. I think they were obviously pissed, maybe overworked, frustrated, but none of it really justified the behavior they showed that day. They didn't really show the restraint that a police officer or any law enforcement officer should show.
Okay, all right. Tareyak, what's your thoughts on the shooting here? Do you agree, disagree with that?
Yeah, so again, I'm a leprechaun. We don't even have guns, right? But again, like this whole thing of like they have so much empathy for people who were literally like kicking taillights out. Like they're seeking out the fight. They're looking for trouble. These are the individuals that they have so much fucking empathy for. But when it comes to like an actual like the average police officer who puts their life on the line every day going into that fray, that these people literally view them as fucking Nazis, even though they're their own countrymen. You know what I mean? Who is even willing to put up with that amount of shit? Like you talk about like these service workers, they work in retail and all this kind of shit. Oh, I have to do customer service. Try and do a fucking one night patrolling those streets when you view them, they view you as the devil. You're the Nazi. See how it happens. See how safe you feel. See how quote unquote trigger happy you are.
Does Dusty
I mean,
usually call
simply
police
would not take
officers?
the job.
When you analyze the footage, the whole fact that he interjected, like why is he even there in the first place? These are Obama's own words. These are Hillary Clinton's own words. This whole thing of like rhetoric, like Trump is not the one that's like locking the actual physical criminals up himself. You're trying to act like this is an isolated event and we're all radicals when it's clear yous are the one that have shifted so far over the other side you don't even recognize your own countrymen anymore.
Does Dusty?
Rinyald.
The reason I don't recognize my countrymen is because my countrymen don't respect the Fourth Amendment or constitutional rights. Then they're not my countrymen.
So you became more radical.
Physically as my countrymen.
No.
If they don't respect the foundational
you became more radical. Say it. You became more radical.
Not radical. I'm radical the way George Washington was radical.
You
I guess.
moved
Radical
more
the way
radical.
Thomas Jefferson was or Ben Frank was. Okay, maybe that's difficult
and
for the
you
Irishman
took
to
the step
understand.
away because it was
But-
Hillary Clinton
Well,
and
no, they-
Barack
they
Obama
took-
that were
no,
reading
they
off the
took the
same
step
script that
away.
Trump's reading off right now.
The
That you keep
ICE
talking
took
about
the
him
step
taking the car.
away.
And you're
That
not
was
happy
13
with
days before
you're
the
not happy
shot.
with your
How
own
can you use that
Democrats.
as evidence for
Okay.
a
You
shooting?
hate
If
your
I
own
committed
country.
a crime
Okay.
13
Hold on,
days
Tareyak.
and an officer came and shot me 13 days later, that's not justification for shooting me 13 days later. I don't care if he kicked the taillights out. I don't care if he pissed on the car. If it was days later, the officer doesn't need to shoot him in relation to that. And why is he there? He's there because it's Minneapolis. It's his town. Why is the ICE officers there?
Well, I look real quick. I do believe that he
Why
was
is
there
there
because
security at a nightclub?
the police never arrested him, put him in jail. But I do want to get to this. Rinyald, let me ask you this, and let's kind of go with the debate here, guys. Rinyald, give me your opinion about the shooting specifically. If it was unjustified with the ICE agents, do they belong in prison? Who's at fault here? Is it Donald Trump or is it the state of Minneapolis that didn't actually put Alex Purdy in jail that would have avoided this situation in the first place?
Yeah, the legal standards. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert on self-defense rights. I don't know. So for that reason, I'm not going to say that the ICE officer deserves to be in jail. And I don't know if I'd ever say that. I think it was an unjustified shoot. I don't see a reason why you needed to load off into this guy's back. Especially when his gun was already deholstered. I just don't see any justification for it. As to where the blame lies, I just feel like the ICE officers probably shouldn't have been there. I don't see the reason that they have been there. It hasn't been demonstrated to me why we need these mass deportations. Whether or not Freddie should have been in jail for kicking that taillight off, I don't know. I don't know if it was referred to the people, if it was being investigated, who knows. But I mean, at the end of the day, there could be multiple things contributing to something, but I mean, that doesn't make the killing of this person any more just.
Okay, fair enough on that. Tyler, I want you to respond to that. As far as the justification of the ICE shooting, was it a good kill? Was it a bad kill? And who's at fault here? Is it the state of Minneapolis or is it Donald Trump and his ICE agents?
On the level of morality, I would say that it is probably not the best and ideal outcome for anybody, including the officers involved in it. I don't think any of them wanted that to happen, but it's lawful but awful, as I was saying earlier. Lawfully, I think they have court precedent backing them all the way. Now, Rinyald, the reason why this is happening is because it's the law. We are compelled morally to uphold the law. Donald Trump ran on mass deportations. It was arguably the second biggest issue of the election cycle.
Well, the problem is that when, please just forgive me. When I hear conservatives or I guess former liberals say that it's just in service of like enforcing the law, I kind of feel like it's laughable whenever we elect somebody like Donald Trump to do it, right? When they're violating people's Fourth Amendment rights, 14th Amendment rights, Fifth Amendment rights, but all of a sudden the only, law that matters anymore is the Second Amendment and, well, maybe not even the Second Amendment anymore, but like just the INA. Like I'm just like super like, if it was just enforcing the law, you probably wouldn't have elected Donald Trump. You probably would have left him by the time that he deported that person in violation of his withholding order. Probably would have left him whenever he signed the Alien Enemies Act to rob people of their due process rights. Probably would have left him when he sent a bunch of people to CCOT. You probably would have left him when the ICE memo leaked about, the administrative warrant stuff. Like in terms of like deportations, I don't know why we violate the Constitution in order to enforce the INA.
The only time that it's ever been proven by the courts, when it got to the end, there's been a lot of challenges by district courts that are being overruled by appeals courts, by being overruled by SCOTUS. The only time we saw that the Trump administration was actually violating anybody's rights was when they deported 300 people on 3 different planes to CCOT, and that was the use of the AEA. Thank you. And what happened there was they said you can't give them 2 to 3 days like you're giving to file for an appeal. You have to give them 2 weeks. The Trump administration said okay, and that was the end of it. They're still using the Alien Enemies Act.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not
just
true.
won a case.
It wasn't the court didn't say, oh, you're not providing them with the 2 to 3 days of notice that they need. The problem is that the notice that they were given was none. These people on the plane asked to talk to their lawyers, and then they said, oh, you will, and then they shipped them out the same night. Right? This wasn't 2 to 3 days. This was 2 to 3 minutes.
They were under the premises that since they were labeled a domestic terrorist group, that they didn't have to give them the same amount of time that they give a normal criminal. The court said no, and they
didn't have any time. They didn't have any time.
Every other claim about people's rights being violated has yet to be adjudicated by the court.
The alien enemies class never had any ability to file for habeas corpus, like the Trump administration conceded in court that they have the ability to do. There was never any opportunity. They never got to talk to the lawyers. The lawyers didn't know what district they were being held in. It wasn't a case of I
read the oral argument. Amy Coney Barrett straight up said you're giving these people 2 to 3 days at best, and you have to give them at least 2 weeks. And
that's not even the case. They weren't even being given that much time, and they weren't being given the ability to, right? If you need to file for habeas corpus in the district that you're being held, and they're not telling the lawyers where the district in which their client is being held, how are you supposed to file for habeas corpus?
This is what they said in the actual transcript. That Amy Coney Barrett said it herself. You're giving them 2 to 3 days at best. So the at best means that you could be right about some of them. Other ones I could be right about as well. But the Trump administration agreed and started doing it. And that's the only time they have been proven to be violating someone's rights. Every other claim has been dismissed by appeals courts or Supreme Courts.
I'm fairly familiar with these cases. I'm pretty sure you're getting your cases mixed up because there were 2 things on the Alien Enemies Act, right? There was AAUP versus Trump and there was JGG versus Trump. I'm pretty sure the one that litigated time to appeal was AAUP, which was after JGG. So what happened is they tried to fly these people out on the planes. The Supreme Court struck them down. And then they tried to fly out even more people on planes, saying that 2 days was enough to actually file for any sort of legal relief. And then they got struck down again.
Well, the first planes left. They were struck down on. They weren't allowed to fly those planes out there. That was the Boasberg case, and Boasberg's actually received 1 writ of mandamus, and he's currently in litigation to get a 2nd writ of mandamus, which is the highest discipline you can do against a district court judge for ignoring the Supreme Court.
But you understand, after JGG, there was a different appeal as well.
Rights are being violated by district court judges significantly more than the Trump administration's violating illegal immigrants' rights.
You understand that JGG was kicked down because it was in the wrong district, and then it got brought back up again in AEUP, and that was the one that litigated the amount of notice that was necessary, right? So that's 2 different cases. That's not one. And the JGG class, the Coney Barrett quote that you're talking about is from the second one. So the first one, they weren't given any ability, right? There was no meaningful ability to actually file for any of this, and it was absolutely done in bad faith.
Yes, I understand that some of the people that you're talking about are correct. There are other ones that were cited in the Supreme Court. She said 2 to 3 days at best. So some of those people could have had less than that. They could have been filling out immediately. Yes, they were doing something wrong. I'm admitting, yes, that's a violation of rights.
With malice,
Since then,
right?
They have not been doing it. They have been told it was wrong, and they stopped doing it, and they're continuing
after
to use
the second time.
Properly. So yes, the second time.
But to be fair, what we're establishing, well, because I feel like we're being incredibly coddly to the Trump administration's opinion here. But regardless, this is a case where you admit the Trump administration was acting with malice and robbing people of their rights. Why are we surprised that people are against ICE now?
I don't think it's with malice. Again, this is 0.01% of the deportations that happened, and it happened with narco-terrorist groups. It wasn't just
it was with who they alleged to be narco-terrorist groups. One of the things that needed to be litigated on appeal was whether or not they actually were a part of that case before you shipped them out on planes to a place where they would be tortured.
And they admitted
Osama bin hairdresser wasn't real.
But this is what I'm talking about. One the disingenuous arguments to it. It's a lot of these people will have influence in terms of politicians, and this whole litigation and all this kind of shit. It's like if we have them in the place at the right time to get them, this whole thing of well, you have to prove that they're the criminals. So well, let us detain them first at least.
The detention in this case, at least the case that me and Tyler are talking about, wasn't the problem. The problem was that they detained them, they deported them under a statute that hadn't even been announced, and they never gave them the ability to talk to lawyers. That's insane. That's insanity.
The Trump administration admitted that they read it a different way. They thought this is how they took, because the administration, a president, the executive branch has the authority to interpret laws and things the way that they see it, and the courts are there to parse that out. Yeah. To say it was malicious and done in bad faith is a little bit
question,
of
though. Do you think?
I have to one second. Let me explain. Let me just explain. Let me just explain because I don't know if you're doing its intention or not, but I'll just kind of clarify and make it simple for you. Is it possible for the Trump administration to make a mistake, or is it always nefarious? Is it always bad?
It is possible for them to make a mistake, but the reason that this was nefarious is because there's no world where you're complying with somebody's due process rights when you're putting them on a plane under a law that hasn't been invoked yet, and then you're not giving them the ability to talk to lawyers and you're shipped off in a day. Do you think that there's a good faith world where that's compliant with somebody's due process rights?
If you read the ruling in the law, and if you read again the Trump administration's lawyer defending this, yes, that is how they interpreted it, and I could read the law and give you a reasonable person's interpretation saying
Tyler,
that's
I don't even know if you believe.
Have you ever heard a Mormon interpret the Bible?
I think they were wrong, but I can see how a reasonable person.
Basically, you're saying like there is no way.
All right,
One second,
guys,
Rinyald, you're one
I
second,
can't hear anybody
You're
here.
saying there is no way for like two people to have a different interpretation of a text. Can I introduce you to Protestantism?
That's not what I'm saying. That's
In
pretty clearly
some
not what I'm
instances,
saying.
it
I
is
don't
So
think.
it's
impossible to have a
impossible. So
different
you're saying
interpretation of
it's
the text.
impossible for it to have been a mistake, and it has to have been bad.
In this
faith,
case,
and
yes.
In
all
some
that kind of
instances,
shit.
yes.
So like in this case, if you're saying like, oh, I had a good faith interpretation that when I stabbed this person, the knife was going to miss all of their body and it was going to like molecularly fuse and not hit any of the cells and I was going to pull it out and there wasn't going to be a wound. That's my good faith interpretation, right? Like, no, that's not a good faith interpretation. Just because you make a statement, that doesn't mean it was made in good faith, right? There's no world where it's compliant with your due process rights to not let somebody talk to a lawyer, to deport you under a law that hadn't been enacted yet.
But that's the thing is I'm reading off of what the Trump administration said. I don't know where you're getting this idea that you know what's going on inside their heads when their lawyer argued exactly what I'm telling you.
Because that argument in no world can possibly comply with somebody's due process rights.
Yeah,
Their argument was genuinely, just to be clear, the argument that the Trump administration made was that these people have the right to file for habeas corpus, but I only need to give them a day. And even though you need to file for habeas corpus in the district that you're being held, we don't need to tell the lawyers where they're being held. That was their argument. And you're asking me if I think that that's good faith? Obviously, it's bad faith.
This is the same exact time that Donald Trump was saying, and we only know this because of
what I'm saying.
leaked
It
off of a
always
mic.
ends in this
Donald Trump was looking for
bullshit.
ways to deport U.S. citizens to foreign prisons. He is perfectly comfortable violating U.S. law in order to do it. It's just a question of whether or not he can get a lawyer in there to buy him the time to do it. For example, do you agree with me, Tyler, that the President of the United States does not have sole tax authority, that he cannot come out and just put a tariff on anything at any time for any reason that he wants?
He's
That's what the
overreading
president, the administration is doing by using emergency powers maliciously. You cannot tell me that every single time they've placed a tariff on every single country, it was a national security emergency that had to be immediately addressed through the implication of tariffs, when sometimes those tariffs are implicated because Trump gets offended.
Not all of the tariffs were based off of IEEPA. There were several other tariffs that aren't based off of national security. Like when the Biden administration did a 100% tariff against China for EVs, there was nothing national emergency related about that. There's different laws that they use and come to different tariffs. So you're only talking about the reciprocal tariffs, and he's talking about the national emergency of our trade deficit, which he views as a national emergency. I don't like the emergency powers of anybody else, but they are what they are.
Here's a question, and please, I want you to. I know you're good faith. If Donald Trump said his honor was a national emergency because his honor, our country is based in his honor. He once said, in reference to a journalist saying, why do we need to own Greenland if we can have bases there anyway? He said, it's psychologically important. They said, why? For the country or for you? And he said, for me. So if he came out and said, it's psychologically important that we place this tariff of national security, psychological importance, could we just say, sure, we're just going to run with that for years. We're going to say that's okay. And that has no maliciousness attached.
Hypothetically, we could have.
That's naivety.
Hypothetically, we could have, but there's a check on that. There's a check on presidential powers. And just like when he declared a fentanyl emergency on the Canadian border, the Senate came together in a bipartisan fashion and said there's no emergency there, voted the emergency away, and all of his tariff powers against Canada disappeared overnight because the Senate is the check on the presidential power because they allocated him that power to do temporary tariffs based off a certain criteria. He can't unilaterally apply a tariff for any reason, no matter what. Yes, you're right. He might be overusing IEEPA particularly, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have some power to delegate some tariffs on countries.
Wait, but having some power does not mean you can interpret that some power to be unilateral power, which is how he's interpreted it and how
that's for the courts to parse out. That's exactly what they're doing right now with the IEEPA
That doesn't mean
case.
we can't. We have to stay in like. We need to stay in our little bubble saying, oh, well, it might be malicious, might not be malicious, when we can see it's malicious, that there's no honest interpretation that one could make.
Malicious and different interpretations. Now, malicious and different interpretations are one thing. If he's interpreting it in a way that's incorrect, that's not the same as being malicious. If he's interpreting it improperly, you have to prove malicious intent. That's a very high standard to do.
He's interpreting it in a way that allows him to act in that manner. That's always how he has used his lawyers.
Okay,
I mean, this is
understand
just
that, but it could just be a
this
bad
is an
kid
argument
reading,
that you
a bad
could make
reading.
for any violation of the law, saying that,
One
oh, I just
sec,
interpreted
one
it
sec,
differently.
One sec.
Yes, like when Biden tried to
this-
different student loans multiple times, he got slapped down in the courts after saying, I can't do this. I don't have the
you
power
think-
to get rid of
wait,
student loans,
Tyler.
and tried 9 times anyways. I could say that's malicious, but I'm not, because that's his responsibility as the executive.
Do you think that's as malicious as the Trump administration's claim to giving people habeas corpus rights, even though they can't do it in the district?
I don't think there was maliciousness. I think they read the law a certain way, and if you read what
I'm
the
saying,
lawyers
do you think
said,
they're equal levels of maliciousness?
No, I don't think either of them are malicious at all.
Not at all.
No, I think you need to prove maliciousness. It's just assuming it. Your mind reading and branding.
If you're giving something
is a charge that you can prove in courts. It has a defined terminology in the courts, and it has not been proven.
I mean, if you're saying that you have the right to something in my house, but I'm not going to let you in my house, then you don't truly have the right to get the thing in my house, right? Like if you have the right to habeas corpus, but your lawyer can't know where you're being held, then you don't actually really have the right to habeas corpus, right?
Again, it's not their responsibility to inform the lawyers in their mind. They were incorrect about that, but that doesn't necessarily imply maliciousness. Again, maliciousness and reading a law improperly are not the same thing. Otherwise, you could argue Biden maliciously abused his parole authority because he knew better. Biden maliciously abused the laws when he tried student loan forgiveness 9 times under different laws. Biden maliciously ignored the Congress when he created an illegal visa program, bypassing congressional approval to allocate money to where it wasn't supposed to be. All these things were done. I am saying none of them are malicious until you can prove maliciousness.
They could be malicious whether or not you can prove it. We're just saying that the evidence points more clearly to maliciousness rather than legal.
If you want to speculate, that's fine. Just say you're speculating.
Yeah.
Don't say it is this. I'm perfectly fine with you speculating it.
Well, malicious, I'm not even using it like a moral. I'm not using it like a legal term.
Everybody has one.
Well, maliciousness is a legal term in this instance. If you're saying they're doing it maliciously and the judges side with them, then you are somewhat saying that it is legal.
Sure. So when I say maliciously, I mean he's doing this, he's giving this right in court, even though he doesn't actually meaningfully want to give these people this right.
I don't know what he thinks, but I see that they interpreted it that way. They brought it to the courts, as is their right to do. Every president has this right to interpret the laws a certain way. What the Supreme Court says, what Kavanaugh says, what Gorsuch says, people that have ruled against Trump in 6-3 against putting National Guard in Chicago said the president has the right to interpret laws, and it's up to Congress to write the laws more clearly if they leave this interpretation open. We saw this with the Electoral Count Act. The Electoral Count Act was the exact same way.
Oh, that's like the worst example, Tyler.
It's the best example, I think.
Actually, that's a pretty good example when you're interpreting laws here, because you guys are saying you guys literally say you 100% believe that Donald Trump's being malicious on this particular situation. Why is it that you're going about it to where interpretations of laws or interpretations of whatever you're reading could be interpreted in different ways depending on whether you're right-wing brained or left-wing brained? Why would you come to the conclusion that it's 100% malicious on the Donald Trump administration?
Because I don't think this is a right-wing. I don't think this is a right-wing, left-wing problem. I don't think it takes a left-wing person to see that somebody has the right to habeas corpus, which dictates that you know what district you're in, but you don't have a right to know what district you're in. Like that just logically doesn't make sense. I don't think that's a left-right paradigm. I think that's just an obvious paradigm, right? In the same way that there's no world where the Electoral Count Act give the vice president to just choose the winner of the election, right? There's no world where that's a valid interpretation. But right now, any like malicious violation of a law could just say, oh, well, it was a different interpretation. They'll just hand wave it away, right? Like it's not an interpretation of a murder statute to say, I thought I could stab the guy because I hated him, right? And that's my interpretation of the murder statute. So you can't hold me accountable because it was I have the right to interpret law, right?
Were they legally compelled under the AEA to inform the lawyers? And the answer to that is no. Just like Minnesota is not legally compelled to enforce the federal law and get the illegals in their state out. So I could say that Tim Walz is acting maliciously by ignoring federal laws, but I'm not, because that's a standard that's not proven yet.
I'm saying
he's acting in a way that his party believes.
If you're saying that you have the right to do something, but there's
I'm here to prevent this whole moral bullshit that you tried to do, where it's like they start referring to it as an execution, all this kind of shit. So again, like this whole thing where it's like, well, technically in the letter of the law and all this kind of shit, why is the anti-ICE there to begin with?
Because ICE is violating people's rights.
Yeah, there's people from out of state that they're to quote unquote protest, which like we've seen.
Because ICE is violating people's rights all around the country. That's why.
Was Alex out of state?
One sec. Was storming into churches. How in God's green earth is that going to achieve anything?
No one is supporting the people who stormed the church. Nobody's supporting that.
One sec. How is storming a church? How is storming a church?
Tareyak, nobody's supporting storming the church.
The immigration process.
Nobody's supporting that.
Okay, great. So that is a problem though in Minnesota.
Yes,
Those
just like
individuals, that's
it's a problem that the Trump administration
what are
is
we going to
violating
do
people's
about those
constitutional
individuals
rights. They're
that keep
both problems.
storming?
Yeah.
One sec. What are we going to do about those individuals that keep storming into these things and don't have an issue of using violence or
You hit them
threatening
with a
behavior?
conspiracy charge, all right? I support that's a conspiracy charge. I think that's fine.
Okay, so we have to
Rinyald,
send
Don
federal
Lemon.
agents after them. One sec. Rinyald, you're in favor of sending federal agents after them, correct?
Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
engaging in
okay,
a
great.
conspiracy
So
against
because you're in
rights-
favor of sending federal agents after them, a risk is that there may be a death, correct?
Correct.
And although there's a risk, you should still do it, correct?
Correct.
Ergo, Trump
Now
is
let's weigh
justified.
the
Alhamdulillah.
let's weigh the two.
Alhamdulillah.
Now let's weigh the two, right?
Okay.
So in this case, I think
You
it's
just
fine to
conceded, bro.
send federal. I didn't. I was talking about the people who invaded the church, right? I think it's fine to send federal agents into people
No,
who
you said
engage
that
in
you
a
said that
conspiracy
death is
against
a
rights. I
possibility
think that's
from what
fine.
needs to be done. Death is a
Uh-huh.
possibility of what needs to be done.
Yeah,
which
so
is
my
to-
counter
in
argument
terms
is that
of
the
Alex
ice
Freddie,
raids
in
don't
terms of
need
it's
to be
justifi-
done,
it's
right? You need
justified.
to justify the ice raids, right? That's what I'm saying. Those
No, sorry,
ice
sorry,
raids
sorry,
are not
sorry,
justified.
sorry.
You haven't demonstrated that
in
those
terms
need
of-
to be
in
done.
terms of
That's
what
the
needs- in
subject.
terms of what terms that needs to be done is you need to deport these criminals, all this kind of shit, and in terms of the other references as well.
Yeah,
In
I'm
terms of the
asking you
church,
for
all
that
kinds of- you-
justification.
you-
Why do
you
we need to deport
yeah.
the illegals? That's the question that's the
the
real
law.
question, right?
Yeah, no. What
Or-
I'm saying is that
or-
it's exactly.
If you're morally
it's in terms
if
of
you're
the- it's
morally
in terms-
compelled to uphold the law, why
in
did you elect
terms
Donald
of-
Trump?
In terms of
Hold
in
on,
terms of,
guys.
like you admitted,
That's a weak
when
argument.
you have to do what's right with to do the law, a risk of that is there may be death. So the people who are actual guilty and people who are not related to it should stay the fuck out of it. They shouldn't be traveling multiple states to go and quote unquote protest, to show up in church kind of type behavior. That's what they're that's
Enforcing
an
the law.
example of this quote unquote what they say protest. This is why I say you have to be very careful in the language that Dylan and Rinyald are using. They're saying execution, they're saying justification, all this kind of stuff. And when
Clear,
you
I
look at
said
what the
that, not him.
behavior of these protesters, they're storming churches, they're doing crazy shit. So in terms of like this whole thing, you have to send in the troops at that stage. These people are crazy.
Enforcing
Can I
the
ask
law
a-
is not a blanket like that, but you know.
I was going to ask Reynald and Dylan. I have to direct this to y'all. Tareyak brought up about the storming of the churches, that it was specifically Don Lemon who recently got arrested for that situation. What's y'all's takes on that? Do you believe Don Lemon actually belongs in jail for what had happened over there?
Is
at
that
the
how his
church?
name's actually pronounced? Is it
No,
Don?
It's
Lemon. It's Don
Lemon or Lemon. He pronounced it Lemon because it's French, I guess. Sounds more fancier. Don Lemon, whatever you want to call him.
Like
Do you
juicy
believe that's
sommelier.
justified, that under the FACE Act he should be, thrown in jail, whatever the case is?
No.
Don Lemon, no. The rest of them, yeah.
The rest of them, yes. Dylan.
I don't think Don Lemon should be put in jail. The rest of them, you could make a much better case. Him, no. I think he was operating as a journalist. I've listened to these justifications as like, oh well, he didn't tell the cops that it was going to happen in advance when he had prior knowledge. Yeah, that's how a journalist works. I'm not like if I was to go report with any military embed or do any embed, I can't tell people, hey, this is what we're about to do today. If I want to film a protest happening, I have to be a silent party there. But that also means I can't participate. It means I can't go in there and start saying no KKK, no fascist USA, or I would literally have to be basically a silent fly on the wall. And as far as I could tell, when he was asked to leave, he left 7 minutes later. So I don't really see the necessary to bring it on him. The rest of them, I think there's a better case, but this is also not the only instance of this happening. I know of some instances where there's like anytime there's like a gay pastor, sometimes there'll be some like people who come in and like heckle them and like this is wrong, and they'll wait till the session's over and that's all probably solved by just getting them out. And that's probably nobody really needs to be put in jail, but it is illegal. And if you continue to persist and do not comply and do not leave, you can be charged.
The thing
Okay,
that kind of reinforced the fact that you could probably charge them is that like there's allegations of them like blocking doorways and stuff and preventing people from leaving. So I think that escalates it to a certain level. But
Yeah, so
Okay.
again, like I said, I would beg of you as an outsider to look at your fellow countrymen, right? Look at the behavior. You have one group that is literally going into a church service, people who were just praying because the dude is suspected advice, and then you have this impossible standard where you say they shouldn't mask up. Well, if they're literally going to start disrupting church for everybody because I'm doing something with ICE, like I have to wear a mask. So this is why I'm saying you have to be fair.
Why?
You're not
That
being fair
isn't
here.
fair. I mean, like,
If I don't
nobody
wear a
from
mask, people are
D-Day
gonna
had
go into
wear
church?
masks. The soldiers have done like national security
Disrupt
work
the
before.
church.
Literally,
one sec.
troops on the street.
If you
Did
if you
any
have
of the
if you have
soldiers
an
at
issue,
Kent
one
State
sec,
wear
hold on.
masks?
one sec,
They
one sec,
killed
and this
people. That was the national. Like,
this
did they wear
exposes
Okay,
the
guys,
pussy
I can't
behavior.
hear. I
just
can't
don't
hear both of y'all at
understand
the same
why ICE
time.
gets special protection compared to every other
Yeah.
police officer.
It's not
or law
special
enforcement
protection.
official in the country.
It's to save your identity, because in those neighborhoods, people will find out where you are and they will disrupt your church service. So why are you disrupting the church for everybody? Because you've an issue with me. If you have an issue
Okay,
with
and
me,
those
take it
people
up with
were
me on my
charged
own
after
fucking time.
this-
Don't be
that doesn't
interrupting
mean
people
to enforce
worse
policy.
Okay,
than God.
hold on. Okay.
If a masked man comes up to
Atheist
me
heathens,
and points
man.
a gun at me and says anything, my first
Y'all need
assumption is,
Jesus.
oh, maybe they're MS-13,
Real.
maybe they're a gang member. I don't know. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, don't you
Okay,
think there's
Tyler-
like a
Disrupting the
public
church,
interest
bro.
in
That's one sec. That's one aspect, and like the other one just saying like we just want like this fraud to stop. There's like this mass immigration to act as though multiculturalism is a good thing, but if you define your culture as multiculturalism, you have no culture.
So I would say on this question that you're asking here that generally it seems as though he could have violated the the SAVE Act,
the Face
but-
Act? Yeah.
The Face Act.
But he was indicted by a grand jury, and that's
Well,
not
yes.
something that like the Trump administration just didn't make this decision and make it happen. They took it to a grand jury. Grand jury looked at the totality of evidence of him saying he was coordinating with the people that were
After it was
going
thrown
into
out
the crime.
twice.
Yeah,
He
well,
tried
it
it in the
was-
Minnesota court, then they appealed it, then it was thrown out, then he went to Cali, it didn't there.
Yeah, he did it in front of a grand jury. The grand jury said yes, so I will see what plays out. But I am under the presumption he is innocent until proven guilty. I'm thinking they probably have a chance to make this happen, but I don't want to call him a criminal until we actually have proof to call him a criminal. I want to hold everybody to the same standard. So I would say that he probably shouldn't have been in there. It looks like he was coordinating, but he is still innocent in the eyes of the law until he's proven guilty. We will see what happens.
Here's the question. When we take coordination, if he's planning it, that's one thing. But if he's planning to film it, that's a different thing, right? If all we found the coordination is where can I get the best angle or something like that, are we going to say, oh, that's criminal conspiracy to commit a crime? Or is that you're doing your job as a journalist?
I hate to take this to this completely different place here, but all the people that were journalists that entered Israel on October 7th definitely should have been locked up.
I
All the
understand.
people
Look,
that
a
went
lot
to
of
the
people blur
Capitol
that. A lot
on
of people
January
blur that
6th.
label. Nick Shirley's
I
one
love
of
it.
them. There's
Shalom,
a lot of
brother.
people blur the
Shalom.
label between activists and journalists. I'm one of those people who somewhat blur that label. But at the end of the day, if he's performing his role as a journalist in that moment,
Okay.
what can you say?
Dylan, let me give you the olive
we'll
branch.
see what the
Let
grand
me
jury
give you the olive
says.
branch, Dylan, right? If I grant you, okay, I'll give you Don Lemon off and all that stuff, but the rest of those motherfuckers, like we need to lock up all those like anti-ICE protesters for that shit.
I think
All
they should face
anti-ICE
charges for it.
protesters
I
or
don't
just
know
the
if
people who
they-
went into the
they-
church?
There we
5 years
go.
or some
Yeah,
crazy stuff. Do they face charges?
actually it was like justifying all this kind of shit because you don't get to interfere with the religious
Well,
expression.
Tareyak, are you
That's
saying
First
just the
Amendment shit?
Are you saying just the people who entered the church, or like all people who protest ICE?
That type of behavior, like kicking federal agents' fucking lights out.
Oh yeah, lock them up.
Storming churches.
That's fine.
Lock them up. Okay, so you have to send in the troops to that. So there is a justification.
For those
ICE
people, yes,
means
not the
a
immigrants.
a
Yes.
risk of sending in ICE or sending in any
No,
high-ranking.
this is just a misunderstanding, right? ICE doesn't
military or
arrest
police
people
force,
for.
You want to say
ICE doesn't arrest people for
you
that
already
stuff.
admitted
That's
that
not
a risk
ICE.
of that.
That's
yeah,
not
you already
ICE.
admitted that a risk of that
ICE doesn't
you're
do
going to
that.
have potential fallout. You're going to have people
ICE
that
doesn't
will
do
die
that.
inevitably.
ICE doesn't do that. ICE doesn't do those kind of arrests. That's not what ICE does.
No, I'm saying like anything. You send National Guard, like whatever military, whatever level it goes to. It is
Yeah,
like
you
that's
have
you
police
already
enforced
admitted.
crime. Yeah.
One sec, listen to what I'm saying. You already admitted the potential risk of doing that, and you already said it was just justified to do that because there are people storming
Yes, there's
churches and doing
different
wacko shit.
justifications for enforcing different laws. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you can try go to statistics. I'm just saying in the big picture, in terms of the morality, in terms of justification, it's clear that ICE is justified, and a potential risk to that is
No, not
people
ICE.
will lose their lives. One sec, there will be tragic. I can even grant you that the whole Alex Petty thing was a tragedy, but the dude was like
But we
looking
keep
for
shifting
trouble.
we keep shifting the questions. You've
But
asked me like
these people
5
are-
different
no,
questions.
because you're
I think that if
ignoring.
you
No,
attack
you're
a
ignoring
law
the big.
enforcement officer, you should get
You're ignoring
arrested.
the big group that like Alex was a part of.
You're ignoring the
behavior
big
that
group of the Trump
You're
administration.
ignoring that
I don't
group
know.
and saying all the fallout of that group is completely on ICE. That's what you're doing, and it's unfair.
I'm saying that inflaming the public is going to cause the public to be inflamed. Yes.
Between inflaming the public, these are the words of Hillary Clinton. Was Hillary Clinton inflaming the public in 2008? Was Barack Obama inflaming the public in 2010? No, because he was our guy. He was a Democrat.
When Donald Trump is saying that they're like poisoning the blood of Americans and talking about crime
was
rates
7.
and saying that a bunch of people who came across the border with protected status are illegal immigrants and saying that there's like 5 billion immigrants in the country. That's what inflames the people. Sending all these ICE raids, federalizing the National Guard, that inflames people.
Perfection. Because you expect perfection. You expect Trump to be 100%
competence.
with everything. And then, like I said, one sec. And then we cue fucking Joe Biden falling up a flight of stairs. I don't even know how you're able to fucking do that.
Listen,
to fall up a flight of stairs. And then it's like, Trump is not being very specific and 100% to the law in this country.
Yes,
Can you see the ridiculous standard that these people do?
Yeah, here's my standard. I would rather my president fall upstairs than shoot somebody in the face. Yeah, that is my standard. I would rather someone fall up the stairs than kill a person.
Who did Trump shoot in the face? Who did Trump shoot in the face?
I don't know. Who knows? Exactly. Who knows what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
But I know the metaphor of what you're speaking about. How like I can murder somebody in broad daylight and people will still support me. I think that's where you're alluding to. But I want to get back to this. You guys went back to because he brought up the church situation here. I want to get y'all's opinion. But you were talking about Don Lemon shouldn't probably be in jail. However, we do know, and it's footage here. I'm not trying to get into the debate, but I am saying that Don Lemon did have premeditated knowledge that that particular group of people were going to go into the church. Okay, so my argument would be if he had premeditated knowledge that they were going to go into that church and cause a ruckus, he literally gave them Starbucks, stuff like that. It seemed like he was part of the activism at the time with these videos, what I was looking at. So if you want to make the argument that he was just doing journalism, therefore he shouldn't be charged under the FACE Act and the other people should be, it kind of seems like because he already knew that a crime was going to happen and instead he's just saying, well, I'm just going to go in there and just document it. It would be similar to somebody that knew that a robbery was going to happen and that these group of people were going to rob the bank and he knew about it and he gave them Starbucks. Then he went into the bank and filmed it. Wouldn't you say that would still be a crime?
Well, there's a
I might take the radical position, but I think someone should be able to do that, by the way. If somebody knows robbery's going to happen and they're a journalist, they should be able to film the whole robbery and not be charged. But
really?
There's some important...
Well, you're Dylan, you are...
I want to film with terrorist groups. I want to film with everything that's possible to film with because I think it's important to film all of it.
So one second.
That is radical. That is radical.
One second. You're not going to run from this. You're not going to run from this. You're not going
to get on my penis.
Hold on. Tareyak. Hold on. Let Dylan finish.
No, I just want to clarify, just clarification real quick. So would you say if everyone on January 6th declared himself as a journalist, that it would have been legal?
I think if somebody was to go in there and really be able to show that they were just working as a journalist and nothing else, then I don't think they should be charged.
But let's say they got charged anyway.
But there's also a question
and all their rights was violated.
One
sec. And all their rights was violated anyway. Would you say?
I was there. Okay. If you go into that Capitol building and you film some of that like classified shit or you film something on somebody's desk that you're not allowed to show, you could be charged with that even if you were still working as a journalist. So all these people ended up getting caught up by either that or caught up with directly participating. But if you're just a journalist, you should be free to go.
Yeah, so I heavily suggest you actually look into it because, like I said, I was going to give you the hypothetical that if someone was actually just there just filming the event and they weren't there with any ill intent, they were just literally just filming all the crazy shit that was going on, they didn't even enter the building. If those rights were still violated, they were locked up straight away. Would you say that's not necessarily a Trump issue? That's actually an issue of the system.
I was there. I filmed. I didn't get arrested. My footage is public and uploaded somewhere.
No, I'm saying if
archive site.
I'm just saying if. You see the way you can't even commit yourself to a conditional right now.
I can't, dude.
Because you know that someone's going to dig up some shit of an actual case of some dude who literally was just there filming, who got all his rights violated, which is the same thing that happened under a Biden administration. So, like I said, I'm pointing to something where it's a system problem, not an individual problem. But you've trumped the arrangement system, so whatever Trump does is bad. Even though this is actually no purpose,
can you translate for him, man? I need
you
like
want
an Irish
to. Oh my God! See what I'm saying?
Okay,
Filthy fucking for it. Tareyak would deport you too.
Yeah, I do. Like, you know, the funny thing is, Dylan wouldn't have said that to a black man. I'm just saying.
True. I just want to say there are some things that
dude, have
I
you
think
heard a
kind
Baltimore
of
accent before? Never mind.
I think there are some things that kind of alleviate Don Lemon,
All
right?
standard,
Like the fact that all of the people who were storming the church posted about it beforehand, right? There was like I don't remember what the specific flyer was, but one of the people, I read the indictment, one of the people posted a flyer saying that they were going to do some crazy shit, right? So like Don Lemon had reason outside of coordination to know about that. He didn't directly partake in anything. It seems like all of his actions were explainable by journalistic intent rather than like intent to prevent somebody from worshiping their right or their God or whatever.
Was Don Lemon aware of those posts before?
I don't know if we have knowledge of that.
Okay. Okay.
Honestly, I would say I think if he gave coffee and gave that might be what screws him. That's
what I was thinking
How are they
too.
going to break into the
that's what
church without the fuel? Yeah.
But I don't think. But I want to be clear: premeditation and the idea of him not pre-knowledge. I don't think that should be it. I think that's wrong. Because in order to work as a journalist, if you want to capture something from a perspective, the only way you can do it is with prior knowledge, without going and telling.
But Dylan, you're making. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get involved in this debate.
So if I want to do an in bed with the cartels, there's no way for me to do it if I'm going to tell the cops.
They're debating the moderator because they can't debate me and Tyler. Because like I said, me and Tyler's argument is locked down.
I'm just trying to shock you of what Dylan's saying here.
Debate you because I can't understand you half the time.
But I want to get back to the legality. I want to get back to the legality of the pretty shooting. So I'm all done on Don Lemon.
Okay, let's go, Tyler. You got the floor here. Go ahead and shoot back to circle back to the Alex Purdy show.
The last thing I have notes for that you guys said that I took some umbrage with was that it was an execution. So Turner v. Driver is a civil case that sets the standard for what reasonable force is. There's been multiple cases when somebody's standing in the road. They're not only creating an exacerbated threat to the officers, but they're also impeding law enforcement. These two women walked up and impeded the vehicle by standing next to it. They are able to use the lowest level of force, which is open hand force, which is pushing. He told them to leave the road, so they were ignoring lawful orders, and then he pushed them out of the road since they were blocking cars, and they were not just ICE vehicles, but regular traffic as well, creating a more dangerous situation. So these people were pushed out of the road. When Priddy stepped in after that and put his hands on the officer, even if he meant to protect a woman, even if he had the greatest intent in the world, that is still assault on an officer, and that justifies him pulling out the mace and using it. The first gunshot, there's speculation it came from his gun misfiring. I don't think there's anything backing that until we get an investigation proving that. But what we heard was gun, gun, gun. The gun was disarmed, and 0.6 seconds after the gun was taken off of him, the first shot rang out. There is no amount of time, or no situation where a reasonable person could not be told this because of the chaos of the situation and react accordingly after they hear gun. So even if the first shot did come from the officers, I could see the totality of the circumstances still letting all the officers that fired walk.
Okay, so being maced sucks. I don't know if anybody here has been maced, but it's not fun. And you can't tell anything is going on. Your eyes, you can't see out of them. It fills up your nose. It's a terrible experience, one of the worst experiences. Now, you combine that with getting shoved to the ground, and then you're getting bashed in the back of the head, which was the series of events that he went through as the events continued. I am not so clear in saying he obviously knew everything that was going on the whole time. He obviously knew what was being requested of him, and maybe he did, but ultimately, it's impossible for us to be able to tell. And because of that element of his sight being destroyed, of his nostrils being filled with that terrible, terrible smell, his head getting bashed and getting dragged to the floor, and all that manner, all the yelling, all the whistles, we can't really know if he exactly knew what was going on, how many men were on him, if it was 2 men, if it was 5 men, if it was 6 men. I don't think we can say. And trying to guess, we can guess, but we can't do much more than that. So he's brought to the floor. He's bashed. When you look at his arms, people say that he made a clear movement towards his hand, towards the belt, towards the gun. Here's the question I have: I've watched the video from as many angles as I can. Obviously, I wasn't there, but when he moves his hands towards his body, it's not even like he immediately goes towards the gun. He's moving his hands. He has his hands on the floor. He moves it back towards his body, where really any backwards direction would have been towards his belt line. At that point, if they're paying so much attention to see his hands going towards his belt, how are they not paying enough attention to see the gun going out of his holster? Also, I do want to throw out again, we don't know if it was a misfire. You said this before, but we don't know if it was a misfire. And if it was a misfire, then there's no debate.
Just real quick, Tyler, I just want to point out for the audience, just real quick, to clarify for the audience. Notice how they were like, it's 100%, law is always 100%, interpretation is like, it's clear and all this kind of shit. And then notice that they're using the word execution, and it's like the shadiest fucking shit that I've ever seen for the justification of the word execution.
I'm not
Ironically, the fact that Dylan described that as an execution, like, even though there's multiple different interpretations to it.
That's a fair criticism, but nevertheless, like, I'm sorry, Dylan brings up a good point.
He's framing for a debate. These two are vetted. They're obviously intelligent people, able to argue their perspective well. I'm not arguing with Chad. There's a bunch of retards down there.
Nah, I got TDS. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But Chad is part of
it's fine. You can hold your own in an argument.
You gotta teach Chat.
Yeah, well, fair enough on that. Yeah, Dylan brings up a pretty good point about the macing and like with individuals behind him, etc. This is a pretty good point here because I've seen the videos myself. It does show that he did reach out, or at least knew that he was armed. It did show an officer that took out the gun before. When you look at the videos, it didn't look like any of the officers actually saw that happening. Now, it could have been a misfire, whatever the case is. When that happened, gun, and then, of course, the shots rang out, right? So I think this is the debate of whether it was justified or unjustified. I think this is a very complicated case. Compared to the Renee Good situation, I think that was a lot more clear, that I believe anyways, that it was a justified shooting here, right? Compared to the Renee Good situation, I think this one's a lot more clouded up. Would you guys agree with that situation or with that take?
I don't think so until we find out the first shot, but we also needed extra footage to figure out exactly what went on with Renee Good. We didn't get that immediately as well. I think everything besides the first shot is pretty cut and dry. They were standing in the road, so that is illegal. They were impeding ICE's ability to do their law and creating a more dangerous situation. That's proven. Gravity counter backs the use of hands-on force with open hands, that they can keep their qualified immunity. This has happened dozens of times in courts. So everything up to that point. We also hear from the fourth camera angle, the woman in her car, he is telling them, get out of the road, and they're walking toward him. We see him tell woman one to get out of the road. She walks right back in the road and approaches the officer from behind. He grabs her, pushes her away out of the road, and that's when Pretty steps in and puts his hands on him. Or if some people say he didn't touch him, I think he definitely did, because you see the officer move back after the hand makes contact, then he puts his hand off of him. That's enough to say he assaulted the officer. Even if he didn't touch, just enough to say he assaulted the officer, that warrants the macing. And because he was ignoring lawful commands, he assaulted an officer, and he violently resisted arrest, they have every right to put him to the ground. Even if he was just trying to get off the ground, him reaching in that direction is enough to say he was thinking he was going for his gun. Now, to say the officer should have been paying more attention, most of them didn't even know he was armed until they said gun, and they had about 1.3 seconds from gun to the first shot, 0.6 seconds from the disarm to the first shot. And then once the first shot goes out, all the other officers that were unaware of these factors are justified to shoot. So only shot number one could potentially be a negligent discharge that could result in some charges. But because of the totality of the circumstances laid out in Graham v. Connor, I don't think that will work that way.
Okay, fair enough. Really quick, guys, I'm sorry to interrupt the debate a little bit, but Flow State just gave out $100. He was supposed to be on this panel instead of Rinyald. No offense, Rinyald. And by the way, shout out to Rinyald for coming in clutch for this debate, man. I really appreciate you doing that for me. I really appreciate that. But the Powder Dusty sends out $100 saying, my bad, y'all. Really appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. We might open up the panel if everybody else wants to do it. I'll probably just keep streaming afterwards. If you guys feel free to stay. If not, it's all good. We still got about maybe 15 minutes before closing statements. Everybody's okay with that, right? For that? Okay, cool. Awesome, guys. So I'm sorry to interrupt the debate. Go ahead. Whoever wants to take the mantle after Tyler just
so like
stated
this key point, I just want to like drill home, because again, like I said, it's not that like we're wanting chat's opinion or whatever. It's like we're making our case to also chat. Like they're the majority here. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, chat, like notice the key distinction in language, where he's like, this is an execution, as if like it's like a public hanging and all this kind of shit. Versus when it comes to the law, that's like very kind of like when you're using these words again, it comes in down to interpretation. You know what I mean? So notice that this is an execution, all this kind of stuff, and then if you don't see our way, it's 100% clear and all this kind of shit. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for all this stuff. And like I said, we were literally watching a president falling up the stairs and being called sharpest attack. I mean, come on, people, come on.
Okay, when we talk about rights, it's not a mistake, right? When we have the FBI director going on TV after the shooting, suggesting that bringing a gun to a protest is a hostile act, that's something that is the direct contradiction of the nature of the intention of the Second Amendment as it was written by the Founding Fathers. That isn't a question of like, oh, you know, this is just a question of like, you know, a mistake. That's not a mistake. That's ignorance. That's ignorance on behalf of the FBI director. That's ignorance amongst Trump. When he talks about a gun, he sounds like a toddler. So when we say mistakes, these are mistakes, maybe, but if you're continuously ignorant, you stay ignorant and keep making the same mistakes, that's a dereliction of duty. And that's the case when it comes to people's rights, whether it's the Fourth Amendment, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. All the amendments seem to be produce a little bit of distaste in the administration at the moment. So look, I understand that asking for perfection is hard, but when it comes to people's rights, we have no other choice.
Well, also to be clear, like I think that watering illegal activity down as if like it's all black and white or it's all gray, I don't think is true, right? Like obviously there's certain gray area for what's a violation of law, but there are certain things that you could do that might violate the law, might not, and then things that you could do that definitely violate the law, right? Like if somebody's coming at me and I stab them, it's kind of murky as to whether or not that, like, there's certain details that go toward whether or not that's self-defense, whether or not that was, you know, me protecting myself. If I walk up behind somebody and stab them, oh, well, that's just illegal, right? Like there's not really much debate there, right? This framing of like, oh, well, you're talking about some legal things as if it's complicated and other legal things as if it's not. Well, yeah, there's certain things that are not complicatedly illegal and other things that are complicated.
Right. We interrogate, let's say we have we got the truth serum thing with the CIA, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bit of LSD and methamphetamine, pump that motherfucker full, he'll tell you the truth, I'll tell you. And he goes basically and he says like, bro, honestly, like hand to God, or like 100% truth. Like all I saw was him reaching for the gun. I heard a bang, and then I'm like, I'm not waiting at that moment. I'm not gonna let him kind of, because I've heard a bang. Potentially one of my bros is down. One of my actual like comrades and all this kind of shit, like people I put my life in. He's down. I'm not gonna wait for him to take a shot at me then. I mean, so if that's why he's firing, and then like literally like every single one of these people around him, like that was the same situation, then would you not say it's like, well, then maybe it's not an execution?
I mean, if you presuppose that he's telling the truth, that he felt his life was under threat.
As a tragedy.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what.
But you chose to call it execution, correct?
I guess it just depends on whether or not we think a reasonable person would do that, right? Like if he was delusional, he just loved pulling triggers, and that was the honest truth.
Would
you prefer the term manslaughter?
One sec. It's a tragedy.
Well, I mean, I never used the term execution. I'm pretty sure at the beginning I said that I don't know the legality of it, but I think it was immoral.
Yeah, no, that's me. That's me.
Yeah. Well, you said you specifically.
So would you not say that tragedy is a fair word to use?
Tragedy, also, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a better word, because execution, like I said, like if that was the case, that everyone who fired a shot into the dude, if
everybody who fired the shot did it as a legitimate mistake, thinking that something had, like, if there was a misfire and XYZ, then maybe I wouldn't use the word execution. Maybe I would use the word manslaughter, negligent homicide. You know, tragedy also could be attached to that, no matter what, really.
Yeah. So, like, would you say that anybody who's currently using the word execution because they don't have that knowledge is being unfair?
No.
At this point, no.
I mean, just because we don't have a truth serum where you tell your intentions, that means we can't call it execution? No, I don't think so. I mean, like, it clear, like the court of law isn't going to inject him with an FBI truth serum either, right? That's not the standard that we.
The reason why
I'm not saying it meets the legal definition of execution. I don't think they had to shoot that guy. I think they shot him 10 times in the back for really not the best of reasons. And whether he can get away with it, whether or not he's going to go to prison, that's besides the fact. To me, he didn't need to shoot him. And I think the ICE officers, honestly, in that instance, showed a lot of cowardice in the way they engage with the general public.
Dylan, was it just one officer shooter that shot him, or was it multiple?
There was two shooters, but we don't know if the first shot was a misfire that then maybe hit him, and then the second was a real. We have no clue.
Right. But we do see a correlation when it comes to particular situations where when you see a shot, usually you're surrounded, because cops come in packs, right? So when there is a shot going on, we do see multiple shots. Like a lot of the arguments that I see from the left, and correct me if I'm wrong if you see this to be probable, is 10 shots a reasonable amount of shots to shoot at somebody in that situation?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, whatever amount of shots disables the target. It's not a matter of like whether it's 10 shots or it's 8 shots or it's 7 shots.
Yeah, but you have to realize
disables the threat. You know,
sure, but it's multiple.
But I don't really see there was a threat.
Okay. But I'm just saying, like, you see this all the time with multiple cops here. When a shot is fired, usually they put out their guns and shoot at different angles, right? So this is not uncommon to have 10 shots in a body here. You know?
Sure, but if you watch the video, I'm pretty sure, isn't it the case where like they load them up once and then they like kind of check for a second and then they keep loading them up, right? Like I feel like there was enough time to know that the target was immobilized before you kept pumping them up, right?
No, what are you talking about? That they reloaded their guns in order to shoot more?
No, not like a reload, but I'm pretty sure there was like a pretty decent amount of time between each shot.
No, shots depending on the trigger that goes by. Look, again, 10 shots can be shot in a matter of like 3 to 4 seconds. Rinyald.
Sure, yeah.
So that's a small
Do we-
amount of time. So I don't think that's.
Do we
the
know how
case
much
there.
time there was before the first shot and the last shot?
I'm not necessarily sure, but if I had to guess, it's around probably that 5-second mark. If I had to guess,
You see what
You
I'm
know,
saying?
but that's what I'm saying. Like within the moment, yeah, 10 shots could be round out within less than 5 seconds, bro.
No,
So that's what I'm
Like,
saying.
we've gone to like we like even if we had produced that number, let's say it's 1.2 seconds. I mean, what relevant? Like, does that actually genuinely
Well, if
change
it was 1.2 seconds, that
one
would
sec.
suggest that there was like if it was 10 seconds, that's a long time to just sit there.
Sure.
Bam, 1, 2, 3,
Right,
4,
yeah.
5.
Yeah.
But if it's
7.
multiple cops, Dylan, just like you said, it was 2. Yeah, a 5 second seems pretty reasonable. It's probably around that 3 second mark or 2 second mark if it's 2 shooters, right?
If the guy's a threat, my contention has never been the 10 bullets or the 7 bullets. If somebody's a threat, you disable the threat.
Sure.
Period. And so the problem is, I think they identified the threat wrong.
Okay, fair enough. Tyler, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm all good. I got all my talking points. I'm. What was that?
Okay.
Question one more time for me. I'm sorry.
I had a
I was
question for
covering my
Tyler.
closer.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Can you send me the clip where you say, because you
Shit,
said
I should
that
be
Alex
writing my
Preddy
closer.
assaulted the officer, and there's not like any shove or any punch, and I know you're not saying that. I assume you're saying he like when he got in front of him and the woman, maybe the front of his body like clipped him or something. You're saying like there was maybe like something along those lines.
Yep.
Could you send me like a clip or like a link to that
I
specifically?
said it,
Because-
and I also sent you my notes if you want to fact check anything I said after the debate's over.
Okay, got
Tyler,
it. Gotcha.
could you send it in
Because
the
I
back
didn't
chat?
see Alex Preddy assault him,
Yep.
and it's not a popular description of the events.
Okay, awesome. We got it here. Hold on. Let's open it up. So this is what Tyler sent me. Okay, this is the actual footage here. Hold up. Gentlemen.
We only need about the first minute of it because everything else is you probably don't want to show on your stream anyways.
Gotcha. Which one, on the first clip or the second? Oh, sorry.
First was just yeah.
Okay,
So
we'll
this is-
do about a minute for this one, just to kind of clarify what Tyler's point was, and then we'll go off on that.
So again, why is all this whistling going on?
Well, they're
So,
whistling
like,
for
inform
protest.
people ICE is around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to protest, same way they're in church.
So ICE officer tells woman one to leave the street, tells the other two to leave the street. You hear him yell in this video. She approaches him from behind. He pushes her. That's the assault right there.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it, man. Honestly.
Just
He got it. Wait, hold on.
He gets
He-
in front of him, dog. He doesn't assault him.
He is interfering with his legal duty to remove somebody from the road.
Well,
That-
interference
it's
is different
assault
from
doesn't mean
assault.
touch. You're talking about battery. Assault
You just
doesn't mean
we
touch.
just move it from assault to interference.
Interference is assault. When you step
Those are two
into-
different football calls.
No. You're talking about battery. He doesn't even have to touch him. He has to just show he is going to step in and touch him.
So if you
he
step in
continues with
front
his
of an
activities.
officer, that's assault. You don't
If
even
you
need
step
to
in
swing.
front
You
of
don't
an
need to push.
officer,
That's all
And you
considered
put your hand
assault.
up. Yes.
Well, that-
If you touch him
What
with
do you
a
mean when you
different
say
angle,
put his
the
hand up? Do you mean
officer-
physically touching him, shoving him with your hand, touching him with your hand, or do you mean just
That would be
putting your
battery.
hands up in front of an officer is assault?
Why-
That's the
Yes,
standard for
stopping
assault.
it.
Why-
Stopping.
why
no,
are you
it's-
doing that to an
it's
officer?
standards. I have the law. You don't actually have to touch him. You just have to show intent. So when he steps in front of the officer and puts his hand up to stop him,
I don't
that's
see.
considered
that's not
assaulting an
intent to
officer.
assault.
Okay,
that's
so that's
intent.
legal.
That's intent
So
to
that's
show
the
he's
legal
not
thing.
going
So
for
one
his gun
sec,
of
Dylan,
anything.
your
It could
question-
be that. It could be
yeah, Dylan.
just like showing
Hold
his
on.
hands are
Darling.
up. Now he's going to
Why are you
swing on him.
running?
It could be a bunch of things, but it's not assault to put your hands up. It's not even
I have
threatening
the
assault to
federal
put your
law of
hands up.
assault to show you that
Why-
is exactly what it is. He stepped in front
Why
of
you-
him and put his hands up to stop
Hold
him.
on, Tareyak.
From a different angle, you can see the officer has to take a step back. You can see the connection from the angle inside the car.
Well, I didn't see him really have to take a step. He seemed perfectly fine. It didn't.
He
He
just took
didn't,
a step
didn't
back.
get hurt. He wasn't pushed back.
Now it's-
Seems perfectly fine.
It just
That's
the
an-
intent to do it. It doesn't have to. He doesn't even have to make contact for it to be assault. That's battery.
She was kind of far away from, according to this video, she was kind of far before he pushed her.
She was, but she was still technically in the road. He had told her to leave the road already, and then she came back into the road and approached him from behind. He grabs her, puts her in front of him, and then pushes her out of the road.
This seems more of like an obstruction of justice. I don't know if you would counter that as assault. I don't feel like that she assaulted the
I can
ICE
pull up
officer.
the law for you.
But would
Neither
that
of them
be
assaulted the ICE officer?
Wait, Tyler.
Yeah,
So
So
it's-
Dylan, the question is, why would you ever put hands on a police officer?
Well, the question was whether it's assault, but if we want to move on to that question,
Well, real quick, before we move on,
for you putting hands on a police officer.
No, because like I said, Todd has to research.
Can I read the definition real quick?
Okay, hold on,
Yeah,
Tyler.
go
ahead.
Assault in 18 USC 111. Forcible assault resists, opposes, impedes, intimidates, or interferes with a person's designated section 114 of the title. So all that fits into it. That is assault when you're impeding an officer.
Okay.
Impeding an officer counts as assault on an officer?
Yeah, I can send it up in the back chat.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way that intent to assault an
say
officer is
even if
counted
we
as
were
the
to
same thing
grant
as
that-
assault itself.
Even if we were to grant that, we don't even know what the investigation was. They haven't given us information on what investigation was exactly being impeded. That hasn't been revealed yet to the public, and they're still not working with local investigators on it. So I don't think we're going to get that information.
Well, that's what I said earlier. Why would they work with the local investigators if they're not legally compelled to when the state itself is not enforcing federal immigration law when they're not compelled to? It's like if you're not going to throw
Because
us
it's wait, it doesn't have to do with
think-
federal immigration law. Tyler, you're getting too partisan on this. It doesn't have to do with federal immigration law. It has to do with if an officer commits murder, you want to find out if he did or not. If he did, you want him off the force. If he didn't, then you keep him on the force. So
And
that's why you
because
work with
the
local
supremacy-
authorities.
To be clear-
so you have the most eyes and the most evidence and the most hands to find what's the truth. That's
It's
why it
the
happened
law.
traditionally.
To be clear, I
Supremacy
don't think
clause takes precedent.
I don't think that this
But that's
statute
not
that you
why- But if
cited.
you want to just know what happened, there's nothing holding them back from working with local investigators. Nothing.
Sure, and then there's nothing holding Minnesota back from working with federal investigators on removing people illegally. But
That's
since they're
actually a
not
good
doing
point, too.
that, the admin's saying, no, we're not going to work with the people that are
So
not
we don't need
working
to get
with
to the
us.
bottom
They-
of murder until you give
They
us the
are. They're-
undocumented
the FBI
immigrants.
is
Is the
investigating
offer? Is that the King's Gambit?
The FBI is investigating it. The DHS is investigating it. Internal Affairs is investigating it on the federal level because of the supremacy clause. The state cannot, unless they meet certain criteria to surpass the supremacy clause, which they have not, then it's not their jurisdiction. That's why.
Last thing I'll say, do you acknowledge that considering how many times DHS has confirmably lied about what happened, that public trust at DHS is an all-time low, and so if you want to rebuild public trust to make it so shootings like this are less common, the first thing you would want to do is a transparent, open investigation working with local partners. No?
It would help, but at the end of the day, I don't think Kristi Noem being a liar and an awful representative that shouldn't have any place in a cabinet has anything to do with the investigative team of professionals that work underneath her. She's a mouthpiece for the admin. These are working professionals.
According to Stephen Miller, he got his report from CPP. So, I mean, that came from somewhere.
Yeah. So and they walked all that back. They took Noem out of there. They put Holman in. The administration admitted that she bungled this entire thing. Absolutely.
Was it her or was it Stephen Miller and they're protecting Stephen Miller?
Stephen Miller said, hey, I got bad information. Trump said I got bad information when he saw the video. He said that looks pretty
But
bad,
she didn't?
actually. They took her off. They pulled her ass out. Apparently, they're talking about firing her right now. She's on the hot seat.
She should be 1,000% fired, by the way.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. She's awful at her job, and the Trump
But do you
administration.
think she's the fall gal? It's not just her. I mean, the whole administration ran with it.
No, I think that she's the fall girl for that particular narrative in the media. But Trump hates bad headlines, and I guarantee he'll fire her if he can get a good headline out of it.
I just want to add, I don't think that the statute that you linked said that like forcibly assaulting, resisting, or opposing is all the same thing. I think it just outlines that all of it is illegal, and then it goes on to say that each of them are punishable by different metrics, right? Like it says, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than a year or both where such acts involve physical contact of the victim. Like this doesn't say that they're all the same. This just outlines that they're all
I'm not saying
illegal.
they're all the same. They just all fit under the criteria of what assault, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. 18 USC.
Sure, but
code.
your
So
initial
it
your
falls
initial
under this
claim.
umbrella.
Your initial claim, I thought you said that like threatening to assault somebody is assaulting you. I thought that I explicitly asked you that
Yeah,
question.
it says it says it right in here that they don't actually have to touch them. They have to show the intent that they want to touch them.
In order for it
So
to be
just him stepping
illegal,
in there and putting
in order
his
for it
arm
to be
out is
illegal,
impeding.
in order for it to be illegal, not in order for it to be assault. So to say that this person assaulted a police officer, that's just not true. You could say that he impeded or resisted.
You might have a
That's
technical
fine.
win here. He impeded in a way that violated this law. Let's rephrase
Okay,
it.
yeah. If you said that Alex Preddy illegally impeded the officers, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But he definitely, I don't think he assaulted this person. Okay,
that's better framing. Yeah.
But like, notice that it's like we're just doing the dog walk thing, walking the back, and all the language, all this kind of stuff.
I think
because,
assaulting
like I said,
a cop and impeding a cop is
it's really different. Yeah,
It's the same penalty under this law.
I don't even think it is.
But it's different context for how an
Hold on,
officer
hold on, Tareyak, really quick. Tareyak, finish your thought. We'll have Dylan and Rinyald respond to that. Go ahead, finish your thought, Tareyak.
Grazie, senor. So, like I said, like they ignore like the like simple things that are going on in that video. Why is there fucking whistles? What the fuck is going on in Minnesota? Like they're acting as if like, oh, that's normal, yeah. And then, like I said, like this shenanigans is going to get the fuck off the road. She's like, no, I'm not getting the fuck off the road. Why are you not listening to cops? Why are you putting hands on cops? Why are you getting cops' faces?
I don't think anybody's saying that what's going on is normal. Like, I don't think anybody sees that video as like, oh, this is hunky-dory, nothing's wrong with this, right?
So
Obviously, we're not saying that because
it's like, you know what, guys, let's get rid of the people that are actually trying to enforce the law. They're trying to clear the roads. They're trying to stop these shenanigans.
Have you been listening throughout this entire... I feel like we've been very clear what we want to do. We want ICE to leave, and we want people who assault police officers to be put away.
Yeah, my mom took Tylenol, so I'm fucked. I'm just fucked, bro. So you need to like use simple language. Yeah.
We want the people who assault police officers to be put in jail, and we want the ICE raids to stop.
I would have much rather he be in jail than dead too.
Yeah, but the only way for the ICE raids to stop is to get all the legal motherfuckers out of the country. So you're
absolutely not true.
Motherfuckers out of the country.
Never gonna happen though. So
no, because if that was to be the case, well then ICE would no longer be justified, and then I'd join your side.
ICE isn't justified now. I'm still waiting for the justification for the ICE raids now.
We get there, comrade. Call me Dom Comrade Teriyovsky.
All right.
Like, if that is the case, then ICE no longer needs justification, and then I'll join you in that. So till then, we stand hand in hand, comrade. We join fight for
how the hell do
get
we
rid
stand
of
hand
illegals.
in hand?
I will walk with you. I will fly plane. I will come over to Americas. I will hold hand with you, sir.
Okay.
Russophobia is kicking in. I do want to say that the difference between assault and impeding is significant for how an officer should respond and analyze a threat. If somebody's trying to impede an officer, knowing that you've been in Minneapolis for months and there's a bunch of these liberal wine moms and other types that are trying to stop you from doing your job through blowing whistles, stuff like that, you should understand that poses a different threat than an assassin coming to massacre you with a very powerful gun loaded up with 2 fully loaded magazines, as the president described it. So I do think the difference is substantial. The whistles are there. The whistles, man,
Hold on, Tareyak.
Just answer one question, just real quick, because he's doing the whole thing, like I said, with the language. Just show me like the examples of like the people that are cheering this on the conservative side. Same way they cheered on after Charlie Kirk, because they keep saying
take a scroll through TikTok, buddy.
That's a valid question because it's related to.
Take a scroll through TikTok.
Show me the mass, like the hundreds of thousands of reshares, the hundreds of thousands of.
What
likes
is this in relation?
These
this
people
isn't even in response
cheering,
to
enjoying, saying this is
Terry,
great
have you not heard the conservatives say like fuck around and find out? Have you not heard that?
Do you want me to talk about?
Yeah, well, hold on.
I wasn't finished with my point.
But okay. I'm sorry, Dylan.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was expecting. That's what I was coming to. Like I thought you were going to bring a real argument, Dylan.
Tareyak,
let me finish my point.
I'm going to say,
I'm going to.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll sit back.
Okay.
Tyler, you have the floor for the team. I grant you permission for the floor team. Go ahead, darling.
Okay.
Tell me your
okay,
myths.
really quick. Tareyak, hold on really quick. Tareyak's question is that, of course, during the Charlie Kirk situation, we had a bunch of TikTokers, a lot of people celebrating his death, etc. His question is, do you see anybody on the right celebrating the Alex Purdy death? Rinyald mentioned the fuck around and find out. That's actually a quote from Destiny, by the way, who, during the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, where Corey Carpenter got shot. That's a quote from Destiny that's spoken about that. That's kind of the question here that Tareyak's coming out, is that was there any right wingers that celebrated or were happy about Alex Purdy's death?
Now, there's a question about like whether or not somebody is genuinely supporting something or making jokes, but like, yes, the answer is yes, obviously. There's more complicated questions, but like in shorthand, yes, there were right-wing people supporting the death of Alex Purdy. And
was there anybody significant? Okay, was there any
camera like literally screaming, going, "Yes, this is the best day of my life"? Any conservative? Show me one. Just show me one.
Screaming, "Yeah, this is the best day of my life."
Uno más, por favor.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't think there was any footage of people making TikToks dancing about Alex Purdy's death or anything like that.
There
I think
certainly
there's
were.
Distinguished there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if you can bring them up for me, I've never seen. Hold on, Tareyak, hold up. Rinyald, if you could send me a couple of those TikToks, I have a whole fucking montage of people celebrating Charlie Kirk. I mean, literally people doing that. But nevertheless, well, guys, we'll edit there. I think we kind of went through a lot of this stuff. Unless Dylan, you have any last words to say on that, we'll get to closing statements. If there's any questions you have for Tareyak and Tyler before we end off the stream, same thing with you, Rinyald.
No, I mean, I think we've basically gone through everything. I think we've gone through everything that we need to say. Anything I have to say, I could say in any statements.
Okay, awesome, bro. All right, with that being said, we'll shoot out to closing statements here. Now, from here, we'll do from since you guys opened up the panel. I think it's fair for the left to close out the panel here. Actually, have the last word. I'm sorry, guys. You guys will have the last word. We'll start with Tareyak on the closing statements, and then you guys can have the last word. Tareyak, go ahead, man. Closing thoughts.
Fundamentally, like to answer Andrew's question from the beginning of the debate, I don't know if he's still watching, maybe he's still lurking. Like, my whole point here was just to negate all this moral shit that they were going to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. I mean, call me Patches O'Houlihan. That's why, like, I was here. Like, that's my purpose. And then let Tyler shine with the stats and the legal. Like I said, pulled out the legal definition and say, what the fuck you talking about, bro? I mean, and then they, like I said, expose them in terms of like the language they're using, saying it's like, oh, this is like 100% interpretation. Like, it's everybody is on the same page here. Like, you're an idiot if you don't get this, all this kind of shit. Like I said, I can just point to Protestantism as just a clear phenomenon. So in terms of like that aspect, and then like this whole thing of like the execution, I said, well, like I said, if that was a situation where going through their heads, we hit them with the truth serum, and they honestly were saying, it's like, I heard a bang, I saw him reach for the gun, the hand was on the gun, and we just unloaded. It was just the instinct thing. That, yes, said, like I can even say, it's like, I can even grant you, it's like, yep, it was a mistake, fire them, all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? But in terms of this whole thing of justification of ICE and all this kind of shit, like the basic questions for like that video, why the fuck are like they blowing whistles? Why the fuck are they getting in cops' faces?
I don't even
Why
know
the
if
fuck are they
Tareyak was
storming
listening. I think it's a
church, all this kind of shit. My main goal here was just to negate this whole thing of where they want to go into the very specifics and the high detail of an isolated part of the event. And I'm like, we have to look at the big picture here. What's going on? And like I said, both of them even conceded and fair play to them for conceding this, that it's like, if you send in force, things like tragedies are going to happen. It is what it is. But sometimes it's noble, sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's necessary. So in terms of that aspect, that was my role again. Shout out to Tyler for being the partner. Again, Dylan and Ryan especially coming in last minute as well. But yeah, I appreciate you both stepping into the ring as well. I always respect the people that want to go, you know, and embrace the debate and all that stuff. And again, shout out to Jake for hosting as well. Salute you, sir.
Yeah, appreciate that, my friend. Tyler, go ahead, man.
The two people to my right, both very skilled, both very intelligent, gave me a damn good run for my money, audience. I hope you're entertained. So the shoot was more than likely justified, lawful but awful, pending the FBI investigation that's ongoing. Under Graham v. Connor, which sets up the test for justified force, it is shown that most of the force here was more than likely justified in a perfect world. The state does not have the jurisdiction under the Supremacy Clause to investigate this unless they prove certain criteria they haven't even attempted to disprove yet. So we have tons of cases where hands-on force is justified if you impede officers or create a dangerous situation for them, like standing in the road. And No v. Velasquez Perdomo shows us that these are the two criteria that ICE can use to detain or arrest U.S. citizens. We also have tons of cases where attempting to push an officer is assault. But most importantly, January 6th, where we saw several people charged and convicted with both assault and battery just for pushing officers. Should they have to? No. The state and local police should be taking care of this. But until recently, the state police and the sheriffs weren't doing anything. They just started, and local police still are not doing anything under orders of the mayor. This is allowing the chaos to fester. This is allowing the situation to get worse because we see crimes being committed and nothing happening to the people doing them. Most of these officers weren't ICE. We have to remember that. A lot of the officers involved in the shoot were BPA and CBP that were called in to back up ICE because most of ICE is in the southern parts of the states. 20% of what ICE is doing takes place in Texas. Only 2% takes place in Minnesota. They are drastically undermanned, and when they're not being backed up by local law enforcement, this is going to be the result. So the reason we're seeing this massive push of ICE deportations is because the previous administration, within their rights, interpreted parole authority, visa authority, in order to bring in an unprecedented amount of people. Even admitted by the New York Times, we saw more people come in 4 years than ever in U.S. history in that same time frame. That being said, 500,000 people that came in under the illegal visa program lost that right. We saw that in the Supreme Court. 1 million people were brought in using that parole authority. Both of these things were struck down by courts while Biden was still in office because lawsuits came up. Next, on top of that, we have a FAIR study talking about the asylum abuse. Under both Obama and Biden, they created a credible fear. I know you hate FAIR. I know you do, but under the asylum, they created a credible fear, which is a lower standard of asylum that was being used. Trump used reasonable fear. They used credible fear, and we saw skyrocketing abuse by the asylum claims. According to this study, 60% of people that came in under credible fear either didn't even apply for asylum, applied for asylum and dropped out, disappearing into the interior, or got rejected and disappeared before their deportation date. 60% of people that use this lesser claim that Biden and Obama pushed were abusing the system and were still here when they left office. The Trump admin gave them a good phased off-ramp. Here's $2,500 self-deport. 2.2 million people took that. That's about 10 to 15% of the illegal immigrants in the country took that money and left on their own. The rest decided not to. They needed to be removed by force. ICE's sole duty is to remove them by force. They are morally compelled to uphold the laws. You can argue they shouldn't be as aggressive as they are, and I may agree with you. But the fact that Trump was elected on this, the number 2 or arguably the number 1, depending on the exit poll, issue of the last election, where he had 60% approval, including a majority of Hispanic support on mass deportations, they are morally compelled to do this. And that is all you need, no matter what a snapshot poll that has a flawed sample size in the last week says.
Okay, thank you so much for that closing statement. Dylan, you and your partner have the last word. Go ahead, Dylan.
Sure. I'll just ask people they can go and watch the last seconds before Alex Peretti was pepper sprayed in the face if they want to, if that's assault or even going as far as battery. I think he was getting in their way. You can make a statement about impeding an investigation, but that's very different than assaulting a cop, brandishing a weapon, assassinating, and many of the things that have been claimed to justify the shooting of Alex Peretti. As for the idea of the polling data not being sufficient, and Trump was elected on this, Trump was elected on a platform of deporting the most violent criminals, deporting rapists, deporting murderers, deporting boogeymen, bedtime story type of figures. The ways that they would talk about these people was the worst of the worst, and those people do exist in the United States, and that's who we went with this campaign to go against. And a lot of people in the country, and you can say, well, he said in this podcast when asked on this show that yes, we are also going to deport these people. That wasn't the message they delivered on the campaign trail. You have a lot of people who voted for Trump saying, I don't know how my cousin got deported. I thought they were going after the gangsters. I thought they were going after the murderers. I thought they were going after the X, Y, and Z. And so you could say Trump has a mandate with a vote where he didn't even get a majority of the population to vote for him. But I think that the pitch he made to deport rapists, that's popular. The pitch he made to deport everybody, that's not popular. And I don't think that violating the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, or really any of the amendments in order to accomplish that is helping anybody. Is it supposed to help me? I'm the American citizen that these rights are being violated against. Is it helping the people who are being deported? Well, obviously not. Is it helping the United States? Because you could say, well, we've deported somebody who wasn't supposed to be here. Okay, maybe if they're 25 years, maybe they're productive in the community, you remove them, you pissed a bunch of people off, you've accomplished that, and then what? Then we've given the government more powers to violate our Second Amendment, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 10th Amendment rights. We say, okay, they can do it when it comes to immigration enforcement. Why wouldn't they be able to do it in other instances? How quick our government is to declare us terrorists, declare anyone terrorists. And so I don't like how the way this word is being thrown around willy-nilly. He's a terrorist. Renee Good's a terrorist. If a bullet hit my body, am I a terrorist just because the bullet happened to hit my body? My problem is not only that rights are being violated, but if you think it will stop with ICE when it comes to this administration, I think you're a little foolish. Why would we imagine that we give any power to the government? It's just going to stop when it comes to immigration enforcement. They'd never do it against their own citizens, except for the fact Trump did ask if he could deport his own citizens on a leaked audio file. Anyway, I think besides that, I don't really have anything else to say besides I really, really, really do hope that my documentary gets all the viewership in the world, and I'm rich and I'm famous and I have all the money. So if you guys can support that at Dylan Birds TV, that'd be great.
It's very good. Yes. I checked it out. It's very good.
Yes, and by the way, guys, all of their links are in the description below, so you can check out Dylan Burns' YouTube channel as well as his Twitch. That's over there, linked down below. Rinyald's the only one that's not in the description. Sorry, bro. I'm gonna add you there. Don't worry about it. But yeah, he's the only one that's not in there. But we'll get him in there if you're watching on replay.
One last thing. I will say, you could say there is a high ground that conservatives had when it comes to federal cooperation, state governments working with federal authorities when it comes to immigration enforcement. But whatever high ground they may have had is evaporated if in the process of trying to enforce said laws, you also violate the rights of either the state government powers or of the citizens that you're enforcing the laws against. So any high ground that could be retained is annihilated. Sorry, I'm done.
No, you're good.
No one said like Dylan. Like one could argue America's high ground was lost
these were closings.
after the war.
Yeah.
One sec, just because I need to address that lunacy.
Tareyak,
do you?
Like they lost the high ground in 1945 when they done Operation Paperclip and then formed the CIA. But go ahead.
Okay. All right. There you guys have it there. Thank you so much, Dylan, for that closing statement. I will say this as, I think after listening to y'all's arguments, I might be a paranoid liberal now. If Donald Trump's going against all these amendments, etc., who knows? He might be going against the 13th Amendment now, and we'll have slavery all over again, according to all this paranoia that I've been listening to. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. All right. I'm not saying black people are going to go back to slavery. Nevertheless, Rinyald, which, by the way, your name sounds like a Shimigami from Death Note, by the way. So
it's memorable. That's the point.
I don't even know if I'm going to remember your name tomorrow, but if I do, I'm going to remember it from Death Note. Anyways, bro, go ahead. You got your closing statement.
Yeah, I'm Rinyald. Find me at Rinyald on all platforms. I think Tareyak actually accidentally hit at a lot of good things. He just kind of walked back on a lot of them. If you send out force, there needs to be there is necessarily a threat of violence. I think that's super true. So that there needs to be justification to send out the force, right? But throughout this entire conversation, I heard no justifications for the mass deportations other than just like this vague concept of enforcing law, which like I wouldn't support sending ICE to enforce jaywalking. I wouldn't send, elect a felon for the president if I wanted to do that. I just don't think that really makes internal sense with the Republican Party. And, me and Tyler talked about this one-on-one like a week ago, and I think that was a pretty good conversation. I didn't really get any real justification for the deportations there either. There wasn't like a real denial of the violations of rights that we saw either. We didn't really get like much pushback on the AEA other than the fact that we can never tell if somebody is doing something in bad faith. There was no real pushback on the administrative warrants being against the Fourth Amendment. So I'm just going to kind of, take that. Yeah, I see no reason why we should be sending these raids in the first place when considering all of the different things that we need to deal with as a result of all of these raids, right? Like it just, again, it feels like a solution in search of a problem. That's something I said in my opening. I think, again, it was really, really convenient because we got a really, really good example of the bar thing, right? Where if you let somebody in and they got past the bouncer and they didn't pay the $5 fee, but they're spending thousands of dollars in the bar and that you might need to kill them to remove them. And, it's going to cause all the people to leave the bar whenever you come in and get him. I don't even know if there is a real argument to get him out of the bar. I think the real way to do it is have a conversation with him, make him pay the fee, have a conversation with the immigrants, give them a pathway to citizenship. I think that's a way easier explanation. And then in terms of the shooting,
Somalians.
Okay.
Hold on, Tareyak, let him finish.
In terms of the lawful but awful thing with the ICE shootings, I feel like that accidentally just concedes that it could have been avoided and therefore it's unjust, right? Like whether or not it's lawful, I'm not even super interested in. Whether or not these ICE officers get charges, I'm not particularly interested in. I don't think that these people who are doing unjust killings that could have been easily avoided, I'd say this about Preddy, I'd say this about Renee Good, should be out in the force like that. But the fact that we have to pull so many untrained, unqualified people to do all of these unjustified ICE raids, I think is an argument against the ICE raids. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that closing statement, man. With that being said, thank you so much for everybody tuning into the show. Dylan, thank you so much for coming in. You're a newcomer. Rinyald, you're also a newcomer, bro. I don't think I've ever seen you on the,
I was on one thing. I was on one thing. I talked to you and Tareyak, I think when Ryan was on here about gay marriage.
Wait,
it was like a year ago. I've been on here for like 20 minutes.
Wait, hold on. You've been on the show before?
Yeah, like one time.
Oh shit! I'm sorry, bro.
Long hair. No, I looked way different. All right, I don't blame you.
Okay, I'm sorry, bro. I thought you were totally. Did I get your
happens.
name wrong at the time too? Was
Yep.
I calling you?
But
I
that's
did. Okay,
fine.
yeah. I'm sure I did. I'm more than certain I was a lot more aggressive during that panel too because
No, it's all good.
I'm in moderator mode right now. But okay, apologize for that. But you know what? Let's get you back on, man. I think you seem like a pretty articulate liberal. So I'd love to get you back on, similar to
Appreciate
Dylan.
it.
Yeah, similar to Dylan, man. So I definitely want to interact with you guys a lot more in the future. So we'll definitely get the contacts on. But anyways, guys, with that being said, we're gonna send you off to Tareyak for the after party on his stream. If anybody wants to join in with Tareyak.
I'm leeching off your stream on the StreamYard.
Oh
it's
shit, are you, bro?
Mine's linked to yours. Yeah.
I guess we're going. Rinyald, are you live on YouTube?
I'm live on YouTube.
Rob
yeah, but
Norris,
it's through a different
Rob
thing.
Norris live. You wanna write into him?
Let's go in.
I'm
Well,
fucking live. What the fuck?
oh, sorry, Tyler.
sorry,
you're
sorry.
gonna be my last. I was gonna ask
Okay,
Rinyald and then Dylan, and then you. You're the last. You're the
I'm
last
trying to
one,
hit that
bro.
500. I'm trying to hit that 500. Make that
Okay.
money.
All right. We got to shoot
Make
it off
that
to.
De Niro, baby. Yeah, go do Tyler, bro. Do Tyler.
We'll do Tyler, man.
Come
Hold
do
on.
me.
Well, not
Wait,
that.
Tyler,
way.
give us your link. We give you a link because I'm not subbed. And also it gives you an excuse to do a filthy, shameless self plug.
Yes, that is true too. Because normally Tareyak does it separately, so my bad, man. Tyler, where the fuck are you at? Average debater, right?
It's in the private.
Also,
in the
Jake,
public,
I want to
motherfucker,
say you're
told you
welcome,
to
by the way. I missed Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez for this, okay? That fight was supposed to be everything for me tonight. I have money on it.
Oh, I'm so fucking sorry, bro. I'm
It's
so
okay,
sorry.
it's okay. You asked me. I came here. It's my decision.
I thought
Yeah.
it was a
I
good
made
one.
mighty sacrifices.
This was a good debate. I thought I had a good time.
Wait. By the way, hold on. Isn't the main event gonna happen around 10 p.m. Central Time?
It's 10 p.m. It's 10:30 p.m. EST right now. Do you
Okay.
mean Central Time? 10 p.m. Central.
Yeah. Is it
You
going
still
on
might
right
have
now?
time.
I think, dude, I'm just gonna watch the whole. I always watch it from the start. I'm just gonna watch the whole
Okay.
thing tomorrow. Don't worry
Okay,
about
fair-
it. But
fair enough.
I gotta run away from Twitter now because every time I miss one of these fucking events, I'm like, okay, don't worry. I'll just on instinct open up Twitter. I'll see the result and I want to kill myself.
For sure, Dylan. For sure, Dylan. I didn't know you were a one of those. You don't strike me as a guy that's interested in like combat sports, bro.
Oh, dude, I love boxing. My
you?
grandfather took me to boxing gym when I was in middle school and high school, and I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Right on, man. You don't strike me as that type of guy, so that's cool,
I went
bro.
to Sugar Ray Leonard's gym actually.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Sugar Ray
he's
Leonard.
He's from my county, Prince George's, gorgeous Prince George's.
Right on, dude. Okay, that's something new that I learned about you. Oh, right on, man. Right on. Rinyald, are you into sports, man? I just asked the question because most liberals just aren't.
I'm into the pussy version of combat sports. I'm a pro wrestling fan, and I watch basketball.
That's definitely something that you'd be. Now, I was interested in wrestling, like pro wrestling, when I was a kid. It is entertaining, but
Hey, there's a lot of overlap. You got Bobby Lashley and
yeah,
CM
Bobby
Punk
Lashley was cool.
and,
Yeah, CM Punk. I got you.
Just
I
real
got
quick,
you.
about the raid thing into Tyler, you need to go into your YouTube settings and enable raids or redirects.
Yeah, because I can't find you, Tyler.
Yeah.
And
So,
Rinyald,
listen to me. Yeah, listen real quick. Go into YouTube Studio. On the very left-hand side of the screen, there should be a cog. Let me know when you click that.
I don't follow Rinyald on YouTube, so I can't raid him, bro.
Shame.
You gotta send me your contact, Rinyald, like on Discord or
YouTube
something.
Studio, then whatnot? Oh, the
Yeah, so if
cog.
you click the cog, click the cog.
I'll send it
and then
back here,
click,
but I still think you should send it
community
to Tyler.
moderation.
'Cause
Yeah, I'll send it to
I'm
Tyler,
not gonna
but
be
just so
live
I can
after
have your
long.
shit. Yeah,
And then
just
click
so I can
user
have your shit,
management.
dude.
Yep,
on
I
the
got you.
right
I sent it in the
to that.
back.
Okay.
Oh, bro, I am subscribed to you already. I'm sorry,
And then
dude.
scroll down to the
Oh,
bottom.
all
I told you-
channels
I'm
can
telling you, I look
redirect my
different.
content.
Okay,
Yeah, make sure that's clicked, and then make sure you click save as well.
Got it. Done.
you're good, Tyler.
Yeah.
By the way, bro, I think I probably subbed to you because I met you for the first time, but I guess I just didn't remember
It's
you.
all
then.
good. I looked way different when I did that debate. I had long, luscious locks. All right. I was there backing up Ryan, so who knows?
Oh yeah, that guy. Oh man, that dude's something else. But hold up really quick. I see Tareyak.
Hey, nice to meet you, Dylan, too, by the way.
You might need
All
to
right, I've been
refresh
watching
your
you for a little
studio,
bit.
Jake.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
let me-
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. If we're holding you guys up, I'm sorry, but I just need to get the direct to Tyler.
Dylan's fantastic, and he actually lives by what he fucking preaches. Unlike most people online, like the amount of bravery it takes to go and do what he actually does. And that documentary, by the way, worth checking out. The dude, like, endless applause, like from anyone, even if you disagree with his politics, endless applause.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's many reasons to disagree with my politics.
I was hosting a debate between Russia and Ukraine, and one of my buddies liked the documentary that you made. It was kind of crazy why I got the ability to
which one?
Panel with you. I don't remember. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Was it the Paul Crufts one or the Prisoner Soldier one? Those are the most popular ones.
It was the hunting ground in.
Got it.
Oh, the Human Safari one.
Yes, Human Safari.
That was one of my
yes.
favorites. It didn't get as much attention as I thought it should have, but it was one of my favorites. We spent a lot of time speaking to people who were hunted.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Dylan. Yeah, I checked out some of your stuff. I didn't go through all the documentary stuff, but I will say that you definitely are pretty successful, especially on YouTube with your documentaries. Very high-end production as well, Dylan. So very much.
It was a hard change, man. It was. I went from hosting panel shows to filming on the front line of a major war. It was a big shift.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, how long have you been doing that, by the way? Because Tim Pool was doing that during
4 years and a few months. I've been doing
4
it for
years.
4 years now. Yeah.
Wow. Well, then you really did.
I've been doing
do a
this
lot of
longer
stuff.
than I did my panel show, longer than I did the rest of my politics stuff. Now I didn't realize that until like a month ago. I was like,
Oh, really? That is crazy, dude. No, but congratulations, Dylan, because you definitely put out some really high quality content on your YouTube specifically. Your Twitch, I checked it out. It's a lot more of like your live streams and stuff like that. So that's always good for the balance. But you've definitely done some good stuff on YouTube, because with the 90K sub stuff, very much impressive, man. I gotta say.
The problem was originally that was my commentary channel, the Dylan Burns TV thing, and it had like 85K subs. In the last 3 years, I only gained 5 because what would happen is let me tell you how it worked. Over the last 3 years, everybody who wanted panel shows, they unsubscribed because I'm not doing panel shows anymore. I'm putting out war documentaries where you got to read the subtitles. Somebody talk about their village burning down. It's not exactly the same market, you know?
Sure.
So I
sure,
I should have started a new channel, but I was so scared that I would make these films and then nobody would see them because it's on a 0 sub channel, and I just like threw my life on the front line for 2 people, and one of the comments is just gonna be like gay. Like I don't want that. So I decided I would sacrifice the main channel analytics, and it's finally paid off this year. Well, like late last year, because now we're having 200K documentaries, 100K documentaries, and it's finally starting to be self-sufficient. So I'm happy I took the jump.
Oh yeah, definitely, Dylan. Much congratulations, man, on that, dude. It's very much definitely good work, dude. So that's why, like, when I checked out your stuff, I'm like, oh, Dylan's he's been fucking like grinding for I don't know how long, but this guy's definitely gotten a big amount of views. So I was really happy for you to come on and kind of tangle up with the gentleman that I had in front of you, you know. So very much on that. And by the way, Rinyald, just also wanted to thank you for jumping on, you know, randomly. Tyler, thank you for coming by. Tyler's a good friend of mine. We always have shows weekly here on Project VOPA with me and him. And by the way, Tyler is a liberal, quote unquote liberal, when it comes to some particular situations, but then also he's right wing. So I like the guy. I get along with him. We don't agree on Israel. He's a Zionist. I am an anti-Zionist. But nevertheless, yeah, we do have a relationship there. But and then Tareyak's me and him have been friends for the past like probably 2 years since I first started streaming. Like this guy was the first one to kind of come into the chat with me. So so it's been a long history here, guys. With that being said, we're gonna send you off to Tyler's Average Debate Enjoyer if you guys want to do the after party over there. Dylan, thank you so much. Rinyald, thank you as well. And Tareyak, of course, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. That being said, God bless, and hope to see you guys soon.
Very good. Wow. What a performance.